Welcome, everybody. It's 10 o'clock, and we are going to begin our board meeting. And we're going to start with a moment of reflection. Oh, I'm sorry. Take roll, please. Got to get these things in order.
Supervisor Starkey?
I'm here.
Supervisor Short?
I'm here.
Chair Wilson?
Here.
I believe Supervisor Borges is here today, correct?
He was here for a closed session.
Okay. And I'll make note that Supervisor Howard is absent and then Borges may be late.
Oh, of course he is.
Oh,
There, he's running. Did you see Supervisor Borges running?
I saw some legs moving quickly.
Supervisor Borges is here.
Nice to see you.
Sorry, for some reason I assumed 10:30. I don't know why. For no reason at all.
Okay.
Glad to see you. Yeah.
Now we could take that moment of reflection. Supervisor Starkey, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any new employees to be introduced?
Yes, we do, Chair. We have a couple of our departments here today. We can start with the Director of, Deputy Director of Health and Human Services.
Good morning, Cheyenne Hogan. I'm happy to introduce two new employees into our office. So first off, I'll start with Sammy Munoz. She's joining us as a peer support specialist as a part-time position in our Coastal Connections program, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Samantha Munoz, and I just started at Coastal Connections, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
Good, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then we also have Mr. Chris Kirkpatrick, who joins us as a recovery specialist in our substance use disorder program. Chris is a great find for our community. He is a certified drug and alcohol counselor, which is a rarity to find, and so we're really excited to have him.
Hello, my name is Christopher Kirkpatrick. Thank you for accepting me in this position. I'm a recovery specialist too. I come with 14 years of experience, and I'm happy to serve the community.
We will keep you busy.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Good morning. Dorothy Wadlow, Deputy Director of Social Services Branch. I have the honor of introducing two of our new recent hires, Janelle Pollen. Janelle has signed on as a staff service analyst with the Social Service Branch. She has prior experience in the same branch as a social worker, and she comes to us from HR. She was over there for a short stint as an HR tech. So we're very happy to welcome her to our Social Service Branch.
Welcome, County Musical Chairs. Welcome.
Yes. And another additional staff member that I'm excited that we've hired for the Public Assistance Employment Training Branch is Greg Brogdon. He would like to say a few words, I believe.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As you know, I'm Greg Brogdon. I'm integrative caseworker currently, and my background is clinical dietetics from Cal State Long Beach. Halfway through my master's, my MBA, I have a number of different certifications in business and all kinds of other things that I won't bore you with. I've been in the clinical side of things for a number of years, health education, research, project management, a number of different areas. But I'm excited to be here and help the community and see what I can do on my part. So
Welcome.
Happy to meet you guys.
Thank you.
And now we have the Director of Child Support Services, Chair.
Good morning.
Elizabeth Holloway, Director of Child Support, and I would like to introduce Melissa Charlier. She is just joining us as a child support specialist.
Thank you. Welcome. It's nice to see filling up. This is good. All right. Thank you all. County Council, do we have anything to report out of closed session?
Yes, Chair. Just that Will Folger, who's the board's lead negotiator, was present in closed session to discuss the labor negotiation item, specifically the labor negotiation item with SEA.
Thank you. At this point, request any deletions, corrections, or additions from board members to the agenda at this time? Seeing none, move on. And we'll receive brief reports from the board members over what they've been doing over this last 2 weeks. Valerie, do you want to start us off, please?
Certainly. Mine is going to be over the past 4 weeks because I did miss the last board meeting, and I will explain why. So I'm going to talk relatively fast, but if you want further information, please let me know because there's quite a bit here. I attended the first 5 monthly meeting. I met with Del Norte Ambulance owner Ron Sandler. He wanted to make sure that the Board of Supervisors is continuing to be okay with their level of service after some of the reports that happened earlier last year. And so he's just reaching out, I think, to all of us to encourage that open dialogue between us. I met with the Historical Society Board of Directors. Constituent Dave Doness presented an idea to have a wave cam in Del Norte County. They have one in Monterey, and a lot of times people come from all over the world to see where they've been watching the waves for all these years. And so after meeting with the IT director, a couple ideas, the airport was one, but the lighthouse was a place that perhaps we could put a wave cam. We could watch the sunsets and the waves. So we presented it to the Historical Society Board of Directors, who were unanimously in favor of it. And so that is something that we're going to hopefully get up and running here pretty soon. I attended an ad hoc meeting with the Sheriff's Department, lots of good discussions, and as promised, I was going to report out so that the other board members can be aware of what we are talking about in there so that we're not operating in silos. There was a lot of good discussions around possible places to move search and rescue. So that is one thing that I believe that the sheriff is working on and will bring forward to the board at a later date. The sheriff also has an idea which could increase the salaries for employees of the Sheriff's Department, and it was discussed in the ad hoc committee and later brought to the budget team. So it is my hope that the budget team will present that no net loss. It was no impact to the budget whatsoever, his idea. So I'm hoping the budget team will bring that forward so the entire board can weigh in on that at some point here in the future. I attended the information security meeting as well as several city council meetings. I was invited to participate in the Redwood Region RISE Finance Working Group. My thing that I realized in that working group is the people representing there have economic development positions for their agencies, and the county doesn't. So I'm really hoping that's something that we can look at in the future. I'm there, I'm attending, but I'm in over my head, but I'm not going to not have Del Norte County represented. So at some point, I'd like to see if we can't get a designated economic development position here in Del Norte County for the county. I attended the Tobacco Free Coalition, and that's where we were notified of the recent press release that 6 of our stores sold tobacco to an underage decoy. So we had some concerns around that and wanted to make sure that there is education happening with regard to that. I met with a local developer to discuss upcoming housing projects. Again, I want to make sure we're keeping those lines of communications open so that when it comes time to do a big development, that we are geared up in our CDD department so that we're ready to go and be of assistance to these developers so that we can increase the housing around Del Norte County. I attended the Equity Council meeting ×2. I attended the Last Chance Grade Working Group meeting, and that was basically just a dress rehearsal for the meeting that they held on January 24th. That was for the public. I attended the Q1 Middle Mile Broadband Advisory Board meeting. I sit on that advisory board for the state. Caltrans has provided notice that there will be a Coastal Commission meeting coming up sometime in the future. And so it's important for us to make sure that we're paying attention and that the Coastal Commission hopefully will approve to be able to do the construction for that middle mile. Attended the Chamber of Commerce Board, Chamber of Commerce dinner, and a lot of great awards went out. I really want to give a shout out to Debbie Stover. She got the Lifetime Achievement Award for her business. And when they were talking about Debbie, they talked about how in 1992 when Walmart came in, that she held her ground and she was committed to providing local customer service. And she's been successful in keeping her store open. Why I missed last meeting was I had traveled to Fredericksburg, Texas to attend a judicial jail and county workshop. The Rural Justice Collaborative in Washington, D.C. partnered with small rural communities to try and find out and provide a written document about behavioral health needs of incarcerated individuals in small rural communities. So we focused on the challenges and solutions with maybe diverting individuals before they're even incarcerated, identifying and treating individuals with behavioral health issues while they're incarcerated, and then helping those individuals with behavioral health needs re-enter the community after incarceration. As you know, just locking them up, releasing them, locking them up, releasing them doesn't typically work, and the recidivism is increased by that. I attended the one-day Yurok Tribe Wind Power Summit, and I'm going to just say right here, I'm not for or against wind power, but I do believe that our job here in this community needs to be incredibly educated. We need to make sure that we know what's coming down the pike. We need to be able to be the smartest people at the table when we are sitting at the table. We know our community, we know what our needs are, and if we're going to work to get any kind of community benefit assessments, we need to understand the process. It's hard to put into words the amount of information that was provided there, but they had people from the California Energy Commission, Bowen was there, Canopy and Vineyard Offshore Wind, who bought the leases, the U.S. Department of Energy. It was a valuable summit. And one of the things that concerns me the most is I talked with one of the harbor commissioners in Humboldt County, and I said, how was it for you? How did you, work to make sure that you were at the table making having these discussions? And he said, we read about it in the paper. So the point is that those federal waters can be leased out from under us without us being at the table. So I really want to make sure that we make this a priority and that we participate in all that we can. I continue the work on the California Jobs First project, the trails. Now we are working with this surf development to go 4 different counties. So it's Del Norte, Humboldt, Mendocino, and Lake. One of the projects that we've been working on and pitching is a connected communities where we would provide mountain bike trails that go from Del Norte County to Humboldt to Mendocino to Lake. And that would fall within this carbon neutral tourism idea. And it would provide a lot of good recreation for the community. And I attended the swearing in for President Pro Tem Mike McGuire. One of the comments that was so consistent throughout the ceremony was that Senator McGuire is the Energizer Bunny.
When he comes up here, we see him, and he's constantly moving, he's constantly shaking, he's getting things done for this community. It was interesting to see that's just him. He's not putting on any show for us. That's exactly him. They said that he never sits down in his desk. He's constantly working. And so I was grateful that I could attend, and I'm so proud of his hard work and efforts, and I'm glad they're being recognized. I attended a Measure R meeting virtually. There's been some recent comments in the media that we have just this plethora of funding at Measure R, and I wanted to make sure that I'm being more aware of how that money is being allocated, of the funding, and try to stay engaged. So the Measure R Advisory Committee, making sure that they have what has been encumbered, so they're aware of the ability and how we can distribute that funding. And then finally, I attended the local behavioral health board meeting yesterday. We approved the data notebook and the bylaws. The representatives from the United Indian Health Services were there, and I was very thrilled to see that they want to collaborate to make sure we're not duplicating services. But most importantly, I really want to bring up that we now have a NAMI chapter in Del Norte County. That's the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And it's a family-to-family support group. So people who have mental illness in their family and they need that extra support are able to attend these meetings. And I want to give a huge shout out to Bessie Shorty, Leah Nagley, and Lisa Butrago Freitas. I'm going to just call her Lisa Freitas because I can't pronounce the one. They worked so hard to bring that to our community. It's going to be such a benefit. So that is my report out. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Short, please.
Thank you. In the past couple of weeks, I've participated in a homeless ad hoc committee meeting and discussed the presentation that we're going to hear today, and also another proposal and presentation that I'll be bringing to our next meeting. Participated in a short meeting of the successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency Board. I attended the Del Norte Association of Realtors Forum. That was a lot of fun. Traveled to Sacramento to also attend Senator McGuire's pro tem swearing-in ceremony. I won't echo the comments that Supervisor Starkey went over already, but yes, Senator McGuire definitely does have a lot of energy. It was great to see him. It was a well-attended event. I was able to meet with him a couple of different times that day, and he thanked me for some comments that I made at the Care Court Town Hall in Ukiah, and I was able to make those comments because I was sitting next to Cheyenne Hogan, so I wanted to be sure and give her the credit there. It was great to attend that with her and Ronell and Esperanza Esparza. I met with Cal Fire Chief Garrett Dean, also Del Norte County Fair CEO Kim Floyd, and also called Joe Rye from RCTA Transdev to discuss today's presentation and the goings-on, some possible goings-on is on the Williams Drive property, just trying to be good neighbors and just keep that line of communication open as to what's going on and being discussed. I participated in the agenda review for the Solid Waste Management Authority, and tonight I wanted to just say thank you. Tonight we're going to be working on the Firefighters Association fundraiser or scholarship fundraiser, and we sold out. So I just wanted to thank everybody that participated in that, and that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Supervisor Borders, nothing? You're okay. All right. That brings it to me. Over those last 2 weeks, we had the homeless ad hoc, which again, there's going to be a presentation today on much of the discussions that we have had. I attended airport advisory for Supervisor Howard. Nothing to really detail out of that. There will be a presentation today by the new provider of the air services into Del Norte County. I attended Tri-Agency. That was a nightmare. Other than that, it was, yeah. Well, yeah, you agree? Okay, yeah, that was a nightmare. If you want to have a laugh or two, just watch that meeting if you get a chance. And then I did attend, they had a welcome for the new COO over at Sutter Coast, and Michael is come into that position, and he is very welcome there. I was taken aback by what I heard there. There was some very positive news, I believe, for the medical situation that we all dread here in Del Norte County, the lack of services. I learned that Sutter Coast now has 10 beds that they are dedicated to recovery, so that if you have had surgery here, we now have beds that you can stay in and be there for an extended period of time as you recover from your surgery, which is beneficial because if you're a physician, whether it's cardiologist or orthopedic surgeon or any of the, and you conduct surgeries, you have to have bed space for your patients to recover. If there is not bed space, then we'll never draw those doctors to our area because they cannot serve and then oversee their patients' care and recovery. So having recovery beds is critical. So that will hopefully get doctors to us. Also, one of the local physicians took over the Edgar eye optometrist business there and has turned it around into not optometry, but into a physician's community care. He's got now 9 doctors working in there, 1 new dentist. He's talking about expanding that out to about 3 times and having over 60 physicians and other staff in there providing medical care to Del Norte County. So drawing in new specialists and others that will come in and out of our community and provide an increased access to needed medical care. It still doesn't address some of the issues of having a consistent doctor underneath you for your long-term treatment. However, I think this goes a long way to helping address some of the concerns that many in the community have of always having to travel outside of our area just to see a physician or a specialist. And hopefully that kind of news is going to be welcome news to my ears and hopefully to the community at large as we push this out. And we welcome him to our community. And that concludes my report for this last 2 weeks.
Chair, can I ask, is that the Stallion place?
Yes.
Okay.
Brings us to our consent agenda. Is there any comments from the public that may be heard in the time regarding matters on this consent agenda? If so, please come forward, introduce yourself, and we will go.
Okay, so number 11, I'm a little concerned about. Our HHS director is has proposed sharing public medical information potentially in contravention of the HIPAA Act regulation through the Sutterlink portal. That's going to include the dental, medical, and psychiatric, I guess. And I don't think that we should be rubber stamping something that's potentially going to, you're waiving the people's right to privacy with their medical information. So, and then within light of the international treaty on pandemic prevention and preparedness that's going to occur through the WHO this May, and not that it could be the same thing, but I think that's what the ultimate goal of HHS worldwide is to be able to get access to our medical records without authority. And so I think you should be very careful in considering this, allowing HHS here, with the reputation that they have, access to people's medical records. I don't have medical records here, but I would be very concerned about other people's. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is regarding stuff related to Rennell Brown, the Director of Health and Human Services, 9, 10, and 11 specifically. I wanted to address 10. As the Director of Health and Human Services, it's listed here, the North Coast Rape Crisis Team. What about rape with weaponized nanobiotech and brain-to-computer interface that the sheriffs and police are involved in? What about human subject brain experimentation? What about the tens of millions of dollars that have been spent over the last 3 years to conduct sadistic brain experimentation on me? Sexual experimentation, biological, I've been poisoned. Janet Altman accepted bribery money to participate in psych warfare against me. What do we do when the school districts pay bus drivers to participate in sadistic neural encoding and brain experimentation to propagate false narratives? What about Daphne Cortez Lambert that you're working with, who physically assaulted me and participated in psych ops, playing songs that I've been listening to for over 2 decades in my backyard and in patios? Music comms, a tactic started by COINTELPRO by the FBI and police.
Yeah.
No, it's not attacking someone. I'm actually the one who's being attacked.
I understand what
This
I'm saying to the
technology
chair is that you
stimulates
should
the
be addressing that.
genitalia, and does sexual assault sometimes for days at a time. Is a woman forced into homelessness and oppression? Don't accuse me of attacking anyone when I'm the one who's being attacked, and have been for years. When I wake up to my body violently shaking up and down, back and forth, simulating rape, as a homeless woman in a nature space, and I drive out and a Roseville PD SUV drives by with the officer hanging out the window laughing, doesn't even deserve the title officer. So what do we do about this? You all know I'm being human trafficked for medical experimentation. I wouldn't even call it medical, it's torture. And you have knowledge of this, which makes you accessories to human trafficking, accessories to sex trafficking. And nobody's doing anything about it, and they know I'm innocent. I walk out of my work, and a school bus drives by with precision timing in a psych op. Is this going to be the future? What about the parents? Don't they have a right to know that school districts and school bus drivers participate in sadistic brain experimentation? When I arrived here in August 2021, Janet treated me like a different person. She wasn't even the same person. She was 180 degrees different because she was paid. She believed the web lies of the FBI and police.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none. Oh, there you go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Keith Parker. I'm a community member. I'm a fisheries biologist here in the community, and I also am an adjunct professor at Cal Poly Humboldt University and UC San Diego Scripps Institution of Oceanography. I live over in the Harborview subdivision, and I'm here to just talk about a little help that we need for our local law enforcement. There was an incident recently in my neighborhood where there was a discharge of a firearm where someone's house was fired into by a shotgun, and the front door was hit, the back window was blown out on the neighbor behind me in the court. And this, is a nice neighborhood. It's one of the reasons a lot of us live there. There's about 4 homes for sale now, all over $500,000, and we try to keep a nice, quiet neighborhood. And the sheriff's department, unfortunately, had about a 45-minute response time through no fault of their own. I think the 911 call came in around 12:26, and several neighbors called, and then the first deputy on scene was about 1:15. And she was a solo deputy. She was the only deputy on duty for the entire county. And I just want to point out something you already know to reinforce the statement of how we need to pay our law enforcement people better so that we can recruit and retain officers. I believe that a starting deputy gets about $24.88 an hour. You can work at McDonald's for $20 an hour at this point in this state. And so, why would someone want to put their life on the line and protect the community? It's obviously from a philosophical standpoint. I'm a former law enforcement officer myself many years ago, and I understand the calling. But it's, kind of a disgrace to continue to pay these officers, and, our ability to protect the community is being greatly impacted, and I'm really concerned by that. And so I just asking, if we can work on trying to, increase the pay for, entry-level and lateral deputies so that we can have better law enforcement in this community. so that we don't have one deputy on the street for the entire county, which is an officer safety issue, especially if it's a shift change from CHP or state park police or on a shift change and they don't have officers available. So we have officer safety issues, we have public safety issues, and I believe that there's a lot of tax base being done in our neighborhood. All these new homes that are being built. There's 5 newly built homes that all over $540,000 to $580,000 range that are all paying taxes, and I just would like to see that put more toward a law enforcement presence in the community and take care of our officers better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, we're going to bring it back to the board. We've had a request to pull 17 and 6 for discussion.
Can we have them stated for the record, Chair?
Was that?
Who's pulling?
I requested that we pull item number 17.
And myself, 6.
I'd
And
like to pull 11, just for clarification.
11 for clarification.
And then I want to just pull 9 for a question only.
Can I get that repeated, please?
We have a request, myself, to pull 6. Valerie is requesting to pull 9. Supervisor Borges, 11. And Supervisor Short, 17.
Are any of these items for a separate vote?
Mine will be.
I guess potentially 11 could be.
Mine's just discussion.
Okay.
Mine will be, yes.
Can we get a motion? All the rest.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus number 6, 9, 11, and 17.
I will second.
And I just want to abstain from number 1 since I wasn't at the last meeting, but.
So there's 2 of those that were just for discussion and not a separate vote?
That's correct.
Is that correct?
6 was for discussion, and I believe 9 was for a question only.
Would you like me to just state my question and then we can include that in the amount, the whole thing?
Okay.
My only question is that this has come up, and I've seen this a couple times now, this cyber liability insurance, it's become a thing. I think that the board needs to understand why it's a thing. So if we could at some future agenda kind of talk about that, because I'm hearing more and more about it and it's becoming problematic. So it's just a request that at some future meeting that we can be informed what this is and why it's a thing.
And for me, I'll go ahead and if we can ask Dan to come up and talk about number 11. It's a discussion point.
6.
6. And the reason why is we got this $1,359,525 purchase, and I just want the public to hear from you on what it's a large sum of money, but it is going, this is, I know, for a 5-year contract, but if you can specify to the public is, what we're purchasing here, I think it would be clarifying.
So the term that's used is an ERP system, which for us that means an ERP system is a system that runs a company. In our case, runs the county. This will replace the county's financial systems, and we do list out it's our general ledger, accounts payable, receivable, cashiering, bid management, budgeting, capital assets, contract management, the way we procure items, and grant funding, and how we report. So that's a lot of stuff. We do that now with a variety of systems. We have some off-the-shelf systems that we purchase, and then we've done a lot of programming over the years. But those systems affect every county department we have. The auditor's office maintains most of those, but every department enters data in. Every department has an interface with it, so it's a large part of what the county does. We've been maintaining since about 2000 on the current system that we have, and we're just in dire need of an update. And that's only part of it. That's about a third of it. Then payroll and human services is another section of it. Again, that ties in with financials, obviously, but that's another large portion that we add in. And then there's a document management side of it. So right now, the county still uses mainly paper-based systems. We submit bills and stuff, that's paper going from department to department. So the document management ties all the systems into one electronic system, electronic signatures. It provides better redundancy. We won't lose this paperwork. We see the signatures, we know we signed, and it's easier to get that information out to the public. So this is a better transparency method as well. And I will clarify the pricing. It is 1.3 million. However, there's an annual amount of $155,000 that goes once we sign. Once we're live on the system, there's about $40,000 we spend now that'll go away. So it'll be an increase of about $115,000, but we're basically going from no system now to a very formal system. The rest of it, $580,000, is the cost to implement the system. That gets paid out over hopefully the next 18 months. That's the schedule. So if we keep on schedule, that'll won't be paid all at once. It's paid as each module becomes live. We went with it's a large amount of money, but we went with an implementation idea where it brings those vendors on site. It provides the necessary training we need. We didn't skimp on the training. We want to make sure every module that we're purchasing, we're using to its fullest potential.
And this was not a sole vendor either. This was out to bid, and you had multiple bids on this, and some were much more expensive than what we.
We started the research a couple years ago. We went out to bid in April of '23. We had some delays. We had a little fire in town that shut us down for a while. But we went through the process. We had 5 respondents that actually submitted, and these responses were hundreds of pages. We narrowed it down initially to 3. One was way over budget. We got down to 2 that were very capable companies. The one we selected is already in California. They do this exact same modules we're purchasing. They use in other California counties. We specifically talked to Marin County, which is obviously a lot larger than us, but they went from even a bigger company, selected Tyler Technologies, and they talked in depth. We had several conversations over several weeks about what they do. They have an ERP division, just a section of their county that only does this software. They were great help, let us know. We know that if it can run Marin County, that we can change to it as well. It is a huge project. It's change management, it's the auditor's office, administration, it's all of our rules. We'll have to rethink a lot of that to turn it in electronic, but we're confident it can be done. Also used in Napa County, they were a lot of help, gave us a lot of information on how they implemented it, and they're all willing to help as we move forward too, which is good.
Thank you. Any questions?
I just want to comment that this is something that is really important, is the succession planning. And I know, Dan, you're counting down your retirement. And so the fact that you're looking forward to make sure that this county is in good shape when you decide to leave is very important and very commendable. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate you. And I had asked over the weekend, and you sent me all sorts of information that I needed to be comfortable with this decision. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Any other public comment on this issue?
Actually, I have some questions. How comprehensive is the system? Is the computer system going to take over the county government and we can get rid of it and the Board of Supervisors? I mean, we're spending a fair amount of money in this case, and it would appear that it is pretty comprehensive. So I'm wondering whether we can save a little bit of money. Maybe that $1 million can be in the form of a reduced amount of employees that the county employs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this issue?
Is there one public comment for consent agenda, or when you ask, or we allow?
We're just discussing this one issue right now.
This, so I can comment on this one?
This issue.
Yes, the Sutter Health Link.
No, this is not Southern Health Link.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
But is it each item that?
No,
you
just
ask?
those that have been pulled.
We actually took public comment on consent.
Yep.
Items.
Anyway, thank you. We'll pull it back to the board. Can you modify your Your motion to just 11 and 17, I believe.
So I will amend my motion to approve the consent agenda minus 11 and 17 only.
And I'll second.
Having a motion and a second, pull the vote, please.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes, with the abstention on number 1.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Borges?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes. Okay, we'll bring number 9, or,
We have our timed item, Mr.
oh,
Chairman.
sorry. Do you have a timed item? 10:25, we're past that. Members of the public may address the board on matters that are within the jurisdiction of the board. If they are addressing the board regarding a matter listed in the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes that matter up. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. Is there any public comment on the scheduled items?
Wait,
General public.
General comment, sorry.
that's okay. So, I don't know who's on the budget team, but you really need to look into getting these deputies some money. You need to look into Lake County, Siskiyou County, and I know I'm going to butcher this, but I think it's Tehama County. Okay. And because they are paying their cops. So somebody on this board needs to look in to see where the fat can be cut, because it needs to be cut. Sheriff's deputies got to be paid. We've got 2 things here in our county that's of vital importance, our roads and our cops. One cop on duty responding to shots fired is not okay with me. We pay our taxes. You guys need to pay the cops. End of story. Okay, Mr. Lopez?
The last thing we need is more of a police presence. Police, we see heroic acts that are done, but there's a counter to that. More crimes are being committed than good is being done. And police are getting away, along with the FBI, FedIntel, and COINTELPRO, with heinous crimes. Janet Lee Altman, my foster mother of 34 years, sold me into human and sex trafficking for sadistic and illegal weaponized brain-to-computer interface, nanobiotech, Nazi-like, human torture, and mind-controlled, psychological, social hate experimentation. When I came here, as I previously said, she treated me like a different person and acted 180 degrees different, believing the web lies of the police and FBI. She didn't even give me a chance to explain myself. Almost everywhere I go here, people participate. There have been a few people who have been nice, and some people have helped me. And that's one of the hardest things, when people help and they're still participating in psychological warfare. I go into places, even the clerk at the courthouse asks my name, when everyone knows a false terrorist spy alert was issued against me. Why do you think these people do not want my side heard? Is because the false narratives will come crumbling down. Darren, do not accuse me of attacking someone when Ronell Brown is an accessory to human and sex trafficking. Daphne Cortez Lambert should be fired. She physically assaulted me in a psych op and false flag event with the sheriff. And when Janet came here to the Board of Supervisors meeting, in her desperate attempt to try and hurt me and make me look bad, all I did is feel sorry for her. She took money to sell me, just like my brother Steve Riley did. President Biden signed a $1 trillion brain initiative package. This is an issue for the Senate Intelligence Committee. The president needs to know about this. COINTELPRO, thousands of terrorists have participated in provoking me. Imagine living for 3 years with daily, almost daily provocations, and certainly in psych warfare, where your nephew and brothers are complicit in you being human and sex trafficked and experimented on. And you think of that because your brain is being hacked. And I need to do a presentation on the critical brain-to-computer interface crisis moment that occurred here and what preceded that, the long-term torture and terrorism. And I have repeatedly asked this board, and nobody is getting back to me. So how could something so serious about police, FBI, Fed Intel, and COINTELPRO crimes not be something that you're letting me do a presentation on?
Appreciate it.
Why is my
Any other
presentation
comment,
being
please?
denied?
Any other comment? Thank you.
No comment?
I can't say I have a crystal ball or that I can read tarot cards, but I am fairly familiar with history and what has occurred throughout the country and Europe as well. I have submitted some information to the Board of Supervisors, and I hope you read it. And I hope you understand that I cannot predict the future. I don't think anybody in this room can predict the future with any certainty. I do know that the tri-agency is not the only government agency in this town that can have a seat at the table for the discussions of offshore wind. I suspect that the county will have a lot to say about that should they be afforded that voice. As I have submitted in my information to the board, history has proven that offshore wind is not the kind of certainty that we have been told here in this chambers and previous meetings, and that on the Pacific Coast, it's particularly tenuous as to whether it'll ever be accomplished, and that there are a significant number of obstacles to that ever occurring here. Thus far, it has cost people on the East Coast, in the UK, in Ireland, substantial amounts of public money, often referred to as grants, but it still is taxpayer money that has been expended in the effort to smooth the way for offshore development, which on the East Coast has, figuratively speaking, run into an iceberg and is likely to join the Titanic because it has proven wholly unsuccessful on the eastern coast of the United States, in Great Britain, in Ireland and Wales as well. And that's largely in part due to the enormous amount of money that needs to be expended in order to develop such a enterprise. And so that I would suggest in 2 weeks' time, when you have the opportunity to weigh in once again on this issue with regards to the economic development, or rather the tri-agency being the lead in this, that you would respectfully hold your ground. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, bring it back. And we're now at our 10:30 time. We're behind, but we are welcoming Advanced Air on an introduction by their Levi Stockton, president and founder. Is it Zoom?
Yes.
Hi there. My name is Barbara Hunt. I'm the Vice President of Business Operations for Advanced Air, and I'd like to express my appreciation for the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors welcoming Advanced Air to this meeting and to the community. Unfortunately, Levi Stockton, our President and CEO, was unable to join today, but he did do a little video that I would love to show you, and then I'll follow up with some more information. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see.
Oh, Levi, I can't hear you. Bummer.
Is it our side or their side? We cannot hear.
Yeah, he's talking about leg room.
Yeah.
Except the windows won't come off.
The door won't blow up. Yeah. Well, the jet's very quiet, so. That'd help. Yes, it is at this point. Can she hear us at all? We have no sound here. Can you bring us back to you?
Yeah, stop sharing your screen.
Maybe she had to go to the restroom.
Hello? Not again, please. Are you there? Can you come back on, please? I guess not. Hello? Are you there? Yeah. All right. Let's move on then.
I'm so embarrassed.
Oh, now I hear you.
Now you hear me. I think it's on your end. I had the sound on my end. All right, I won't play the video again, but as I said, Levi's very sorry that he was unable to join. And I just wanted to introduce Advanced Air to the community. We'll be starting service there on March 17th. And you used to service between Crescent City and Oakland, but we've also added 2 days a week down to Hawthorne, which is just 3 miles from LAX. And we're based here at Hawthorne. I'm going to scroll to our map here so that you can see the routes. We'll be going from Crescent City to Oakland and also down to Hawthorne, Los Angeles. And we provide shuttle service over to LAX for connecting passengers to and from LAX. So it's a great opportunity for people to come down to Southern California as well. Our goal is to increase emplanements up to 10,000 emplanements to get some extra money for the airport. Ryan is very supportive in all of that with us, and we appreciate that. Here is a picture of the airplane. I don't know, maybe you saw the video without the sound before,
Yeah,
and I apologize for that.
Excuse me, all we're seeing is, it looks like your PowerPoint presentation cover. That's all we can see right now.
Oh, my goodness. I'm changing my screen, so I'm not sure what's happening on your screen.
Right now, we just have a blank, so.
Are you seeing this?
We are seeing a plane, yes.
This is the map of where we'll be flying Crescent City to Oakland and also down to Hawthorne, Los Angeles. The same airplane also serves Mammoth and Carlsbad, San Diego, as well as Hawthorne. As I said, we do shuttle service between Hawthorne and LAX for connecting passengers. So we're hoping to increase the employments for the area. This is a picture of the Dornier jet and the 30 passenger seating. And maybe you did see the video with Levi, even without the sound on your end. I apologize for that. But I just wanted to show you the airplane. Also, we are going to be up there in person for launch. Flight services start on March 17th. We'll be flying the airplane up on Saturday, the 16th. We're bringing a team up there with us, so we'll be there on day one. Would love to have any of you out at the airport to join us for the first flight that's going on the 17th. Your packets also have all of this information, so you have the schedules in your packets, and they're also available at our website online, advancedairlines.com. This gives you a little picture of what it looks like and how close Hawthorne is to LAX. You can see the little map there. It's about 3 miles as the crow flies. And the airplane pulls up right out in front of the window here. And this is a restaurant in the FBO. People can watch the airplanes come and go. So it's kind of a fun experience just here at Hawthorne. Also, we have superior safety ratings. That's something critical in our industry, and we focus very much on these because we also do high-end charter as well as our scheduled service. So these are some very important safety ratings within our industry. I won't drag on with this because it looks like we got, had some little technical difficulties, but I'd sure like to open it up to any questions that anybody has.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
I do have one. So when you click on, one of my complaints, I guess, about the last airlines was when you clicked on a flight, you wanted to go to Crescent City to, say, Arizona, and you typed it in and it just said no flights were available. But if you went on manually, you could click Crescent City to Oakland and then find your own flight from Oakland to Arizona. Will this be an option where now you guys are linked in? I don't know the proper procedure. I don't know how it works, but is that a thing where if someone just types in, I want to go from here to there, and you'll provide the pathway to it?
If you're talking about doing that on our website, that would not be the case because we don't show what the other airlines fly on our website. You should be able to do that if you're on the Expedia or Travelocity or any of those. You should be able to get the whole pathway. But if it's direct to our website, you'll only see our flights.
So I've tried it on Expedia already because I was excited that it was going to LA and all these new places. I was really excited.
And it's
just
not
says,
showing?
And I dated it out like to April or May or whatever it was just to make
Okay.
sure it was on there, but nothing. It just said no flights available.
Okay, I will look into that and we can coordinate with Expedia to make sure that they're picking up those flights. So I will definitely follow up on that because you should be able to on Expedia, but definitely not on our direct to our website.
Okay, awesome. That'd be great. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions from the board? Public, any questions?
I do fly occasionally still. What I found in the last, probably since SkyWest left, that flying out of Crescent City is a rather arduous task, and flying in the real world now is generally a relatively arduous task. The fact that airlines that are contracted to service Crescent City continue to use Oakland as one of the landing points doesn't work for about probably 30 to 40% of the people that would potentially fly out of Crescent City, because Oakland is rather limited in terms of where you can go after you get there. Plus, you have to go through the typical process of collecting your luggage, rebooking, going through security again, which is an enormous task no matter where you go through an airport. And if you can eliminate any of those steps, it makes flying somewhat more palatable. Going to Hawthorne and LA really doesn't add much to the table, because you still have to go through the same process that you go through in Oakland, where you transfer from one airport to another. You again have to rebook, go through security again. You have to go through the process of being transferred from one place to another, which, while it's somewhat easier if there's an assigned van to do such, that's not the case in Oakland. You have to make your own way to SFO if you want to go there or any other place. I don't see this as a significant change in what's happened over the last dozen or so years. I don't feel that it's going to marginally improve, even marginally improve the number of employments going out of Crescent City, and it makes the construction of the new terminal a lot more ridiculous. If the Board of Coast Authority had been sensible enough to lengthen the airstrip before they worried about a terminal, they may actually have the ability to go someplace that's meaningful. I will continue to go to Medford or Arcata to book my flights because it will eliminate some of the annoyances that accumulate when you travel on an airplane this day and age. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask for, maybe she can clarify, with the idea behind the question I had with connecting with Expedia or, continuing your flights along, would that also transfer your luggage to the next plane so you don't have to check in through security and you just walk out of one terminal and walk into the next?
Unfortunately, that would not be the case because it would have to be with an airline that we'd have an interline agreement with to transfer luggage. So it would be the same situation. I apologize for that, but it's the same situation in Oakland, that flying in there, if you're checking your bag, you will have to collect it and recheck it on the next airline. In Hawthorne, you'll deplane right at the FBO and collect your luggage right as you get off the airplane. And then if that's your ultimate destination, then you're all set. You don't have to go to a baggage claim or anything. If you're connecting over to LAX, then we take you directly to the terminal where you would go, rather than having to go through, all the various different securities at LAX when there's 7 different terminals. But yes, it is the same case. And I will say the selection of airports also is, the Essential Air Service program is designed that we are connecting rural communities to medium and large hubs. So that is why Oakland as a medium to large hub is of significant impact. That's part of the program. Connecting to San Francisco is actually more challenging. You'll experience a lot more delays going in and out of San Francisco. So Oakland, you'll find, gives you much more reliability than San Francisco might.
Is there the potential of ever having interconnecting flights, or would it be if we went
Oh,
to a
absolutely.
different airport?
Yes.
Or, is the option is it ever an option, I guess?
It is, and we are in talks already with Alaska Airlines and several other airlines, so it could happen in the future, but at this point where we're going into Oakland Airport, I think it's mostly Southwest that's in that terminal, and they do not do interline agreements with any airline.
So if it was a different terminal, would that be more beneficial?
It would depend what airlines are there. As I said, we're in talks with Alaska Airlines. I would have to look and see which terminals they're in Oakland.
Because I think if you want to get your flights up, usage out of Crescent City, I think that's going to be a huge...
Agreed. Absolutely.
Okay. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm Charlene Mazey, I live in the county. I have a comment on the air service. I remember back when SkyWest used to fly to Sacramento, and you could take a flight to Sacramento in the morning, go to your meetings, and take a flight home at night. I have several meetings a month that I could attend in person if we had that kind of service to Sacramento. If I go to Oakland, it does cut some drive time, but I still have to rent a car, drive an hour and a half each way, and I usually miss part of my meeting. So I would like if they could look again. We have a lot of state agencies here. We have a lot of people, I think, that do need to go to Sacramento, and maybe explore in the future an additional flight to Sacramento. Thanks.
Chair, if I could just add something. A couple years ago, there was a request. You can still come up, sir, if you want public comment. But and Ryan, I don't know if you were working there or not, but there was this push. Contour wanted to switch from Oakland to Sacramento, and the public came out so overwhelmingly in support of Oakland. So it has been discussed. It might be discussed again, but the public a couple years ago at a Border Coast Regional Airport Authority meeting overwhelmingly supported staying with Oakland, and that's why that decision was made. I'm not saying it's going to be like that forever, but it has been recently discussed.
Hey, Advanced Air and Commissioners. I'm Jacques Kepner, and I just want to say thank you so much for bringing Advanced Air into this isolated northern coastal-most corner that we call home. Coming into Oakland is great for a lot of people, my family and a lot of my friends. Thank you for offering that to us. We hope to have less problems without seeing in the fog. I know that's what one of the problems with Contour was. They couldn't see through the fog, or so they said, so there were a lot of delays. But other than that, thank you so much for throwing the lifeline out to us and giving us those, and we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We're very excited to join the community. And we do look at it as a partnership. So, you know, if there's information, you know, on changing destinations, et cetera, we're certainly open to those discussions because this is a partnership and we want it to be a long-term partnership.
Chairman Wilson, Supervisors, thank you. Barbara, thank you so much for coming. This is Ryan. I'm Ryan Cooley, Airport Director for the Border Coast Regional Airport Authority. And I just wanted to piggyback a little bit onto what we were discussing about destinations and options. This past fall, we had an economic impact study done and an airline leakage and retention study. And not to bore anybody too much with statistics and numbers, but our region from Port Orford, Oregon down to Klamath, California, has about 143,000 potential travelers every year on this study that was done. 64% of that 143,000 drive to Medford to fly to the LA Basin. So the fact that we now have an airline that's coming in here that's going to provide, to start, 2 round trips a week with the potential of getting up to 5 round trips a week to the LA Basin, my hope is that we can pull some of that 64% that are driving to the Medford area to fly local and keep those community dollars here, which are directly impacted into our economic impact study that we did. That being said, the top 4 destinations for the catchment area that we have, LA Basin is number 1. That's the top destination for that whole region. And then the other top 3 are the Bay Area, Seattle, and Denver, believe it or not. That's the top 4 based on this study. So we're hopeful that not only with this LA service will we be able to pick up more passengers, increase our employments that way, but for the economic impact that Advanced Air will have on our region by bringing tourism from the Southern California area up to the Redwoods. They already have an established passenger base who fly to Mammoth, California to go to Yosemite and to go skiing in the summer and in the winter. Those same people might absolutely love to come up here to the Border Coast region and visit the Redwoods, visit the local aquarium, Trees of Mystery, the local attractions that are up here. It's an hour and 45-minute flight. It's faster to fly up here than it would be for them to drive to San Francisco. So I think opportunity is the number 1 key here in going with Advanced Air, is the opportunity that we have to grow. And every year, if we're able to increase the grant funding through the DOT and the Alternate Essential Air Service Program, we could get up to 12 round trips a week to Oakland and 5 round trips to the LA Basin. And I think that'll open up a lot of opportunity for us. So Barbara, thank you again, and Supervisors, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none. We're going to move on to our 10:45 time limit, and this is a presentation on our ERAF Encampment Resolution Fund by Director of Health and Human Services and Mission Possible. Morning, Renell.
Wait for the presentation to show up. We go back. Good morning, Board. With the support of the Homeless Ad Hoc Committee, we are here to provide an overview of the Encampment Resolution Funding Grant and discuss the next steps. Addressing homelessness is a community-wide issue, and conversations have been taking place for many years on how best to do this in Del Norte County. Although the IRF grant is awesome, it's a great opportunity, but it's unrealistic to think that this project will solve homelessness for our community. However, the overwhelming support that we've received and the collaboration for the project demonstrate that it's a step in the right direction. As I mentioned, conversations about addressing homelessness started a few years ago. The Homeless Ad Hoc Committee was formed in December of 2022 to address the current needs of the community. The group consists of stakeholders from many organizations, such as 2 Board of Supervisor members, representatives from various county departments, city representatives, True North Organizing Group, Del Norte Mission Possible, faith-based organizations, and the Healthcare District, among others. Almost exactly 1 year ago today, DHHS, the grant writer, and Del Norte Mission Possible gave a presentation to the board outlining the IRF program with a description of the project and site plans to place a micro-village on the county-owned Williams Drive location. DHHS applied as the grantee, and as the only nonprofit in the county, Del Norte Mission Possible was identified as a subrecipient to support the operations of the project. Then in June of 2023, the Homeless Ad Hoc Committee brought a presentation to the board about potentially adding tiny homes to the Williams Drive site to address the permanent housing needs that were lacking in the first ERF grant submission. During this presentation, we discussed moving the micro-village to the area where the surplus cars were parked and placing the tiny homes in the original proposed area. With some application modifications, in September of 2023, DHHS was successfully awarded the IRF grant round 3. And then in November of 2023, we received the ERF funds, and in December of 2023, DHHS brought a budget transfer to the board for approval so that we could start the project and spend the funds. Although the program allows for some modifications to the plan, there are 2 very hard state deadlines that I want to emphasize in this presentation. The first one is that we need to expend 50% of the funds and obligate 100% of the funds by June 30th of 2025. And secondly, we need to expend 100% of the funds by June 30th, 2026. So the ERF program is to provide funding to support proposals that resolve the experience of unsheltered homelessness for people residing in encampments. The Del Norte County project consists of developing a continuum of housing services and support, including an off-site navigation center, a campus model including a 60-bed congregate emergency shelter, a 50-unit micro-village or pallet homes, kitchen and bathroom facilities, a community area, space for storage for residents' belongings, laundry facilities, a garden, and a pet area. In addition, a large portion of the grant provides funding for on-site staff and operational support for the duration of the project, which goes through March 31st of 2027, as well as training and technical assistance from the state and the state contracted TA provider Home Base. So next I want to talk about the micro-village piece. Based on data provided by Pallet Company, communities are safer when people are housed. There are 3 reasons interim shelter creates a safer environment. When unhoused people are sheltered, they are less likely to be victims of violence and hate crimes. 2, they are meeting basic human needs, reduces petty crimes such as theft, usually performed as a means of survival. They're 3, providing structured community and consistent services, which minimizes the root causes of conflict. Statistics show that crime rates drop near pallet shelter villages. In the city of Vancouver, Washington, within a year, police visits within 500 feet of the village dropped by almost 30%. In LA County, areas within a quarter mile of 10 pallet villages saw an average of nearly 25% decrease in crime. In Denver, Colorado, In the 6 safe outdoor space neighborhoods that hosted temporary homes for unhoused people, crime went down by about 3%. In addition, pallet shelters are cost-effective, rapid to deploy and install, and have the capacity to serve people displaced by chronic homelessness. Other examples of pallet villages within California include Chico, where 225 residents engaged in case management, in Santa Clara County, where 67% of people found permanent housing, in Redding, where all residents are employed and on the path to permanent housing, and in Redondo Beach, where 62% of residents were permanently housed. So let's talk about the budget. The budget consists of 5 main areas. We have startup site development, personnel costs, operating costs, client support, and administration, which gets us to our $10,823,724. The startup and site development cost entails preparation of site and capital purchases such as the pallet homes, modular kitchen, bathroom, and laundry facilities, permitting costs, and a project manager contract. Personnel expenses include staff to operate the navigation center, emergency shelter, micro-village, and to perform outreach services for the duration of the project. Operating costs encompass costs like office supplies, employee costs, technical assistance, training, insurance, utilities, and maintenance. Client support covers client transportation, food services, personal expenses such as hygiene and personal needs, housing support, incentives to clients and landlords, and rental subsidies. And then administration is the cost for staff and office supplies and needs to support the administration and reporting of the IRF program. So, although we haven't made any large purchases yet, we have been doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes work. We've gathered quotes for pallet shelters, kitchen and bathroom units. Some purchases will require an RFP process, and some we are looking at using existing state contracts or cooperative purchasing agreements. We've solicited project manager proposals from the existing on-call list developed by county administration. We've drafted subrecipient agreements and plan to bring them back to the board for approval soon. We've worked with administration and building and maintenance to remove all but one of the surplus vehicles from the Williams Drive site. We've developed budgets for broad line items, such as the site development line, estimating costs for pallet homes, kitchen, bathroom, site work, and construction management. We've partnered with Del Norte Mission Possible and True North to complete outreach to encampment individuals and impacted entities such as the Ag Department, Probation, Sheriff's Department, City of Crescent City, CCPD, Crescent City Fire and Rescue, and local businesses. We've conducted multiple Williams Drive site tours to share the plan with interested individuals. We've participated in many ad hoc committee meetings and subcommittee meetings to discuss the project. We've received technical assistance from the state and Home Base, Arcata House, and Rogue Retreat to assist with report planning and development. And Del Norte Mission Possible coordinated a site visit to a similar model, Rogue Retreat in Oregon. So now Del Norte Mission Possible is going to come up and talk about their role in the project and our emergency shelter needs.
Good morning. My name is Charlene Mazie. I'm the Executive Director for Del Norte Mission Possible, among other hats in the community. And this is Daphne Cortez-Lambert. She is the Director of Homeless Services and founder of Del Norte Mission Possible. So we're going to kind of tag team this presentation. We work as a really good team. We complement each other pretty well. So I'm going to start out kind of about Mission Possible. It's a fairly new organization. It was founded in 2019. With the mission of helping the unhoused with relationship-based services that encourage dignity, purpose, self-esteem, and a spirit of giving back to the community. And I think it's really, the really important pieces of that are relationship-based services. It's establishing those individual relationships with people who are experiencing homelessness and listening to them, meeting them where they are, and understanding their needs. And it's also dignity, purpose, self-esteem, and a spirit of giving back. This isn't a handout. It's how you build people up and teach them how to give back to the community and become productive members of that community. As was mentioned, they are the only organization focused solely on services that address what is a growing crisis of homelessness in Del Norte County. I've lived here for a long time, and it is definitely getting worse. And I don't think it's because there are a bunch of people deciding, oh, I just want to go live out in the woods these days. I think the economic circumstances are such that it's harder to maintain housing than it used to be. So this organization focuses solely on that, and that's their mission. So in April 2021, how I got involved is we partnered with the Del Norte Senior Center, Community Action Partnership of Del Norte, for administrative and fiscal support. So this would be the administrative support. I have a fiscal team also that does their books and keeps the financial stuff in order. Together, we provide a solid foundation. The Senior Center's been around since 1976. I've been its executive director now for 13 years. I just did the math, which went by really fast. And we have a very solid foundation for future growth and sustainability. That partnership has allowed Mission Possible to get a couple of fairly substantial state grants over the COVID period and successfully administer them and close them out and provide a lot of services to the community. So now I'm going to let Daphne talk about our innovation.
So part of what Mission Possible does is we love to partner with our community. We love to develop services that have the people that we serve have an open voice to be part of that solution so that we are truly working together as a community. We have a proven track record of innovative ideas. We started in 2020 with the Women's Transitional Home, and that's in partnership with First Baptist Church. Since then, we've had 48 women. Most of those have been chronically homeless. We've had women as young as 18 and as old as 68. And we have an 85% recovery rate for those women, which is pretty incredible. And part of that success is because we use being an individualized plan that is client-centered and community enhancement model. And what that means is we looked at, I love to not reinvent the wheel. So I looked at Rogue Retreat, I looked at many other shelters, and I loved the model in Rogue Retreat because it was client-centered and because it was an asset to the community. And so I took that model and the way that they give people a hand up and applied it in a very small atmosphere in the Women's Transitional Home. And that is really, that and the women that we serve is the reason for that tremendous success. What I found was those women are uniquely qualified to be peer mentors and to give back to the community. Many of them are going to college and trying to pursue education in social work. We also heard from the community that there was a lot of trash, that the homeless had trash everywhere. So I spoke with one of our ambassadors. That's what we call people from every encampment. We have someone who's a spokesperson, and talked to them about this problem. And with partnership with Solid Waste Management, we began a garbage cleanup. And so what that looks like is actually that first year, I went into the camps, the people had loaded up their garbage bags, and we put them in, and solid waste waived the fees. So at first, this was like 4 bags of garbage, and you get some kind of incentive. And then something incredible happened. The people started just loving it and wanting to just clean up, not just their camps. They wanted to go other places in our community and make a difference. And so this last year, we removed 118 tons of trash from the camps, which is pretty tremendous. Our street outreach served 865 individuals in 2022 and 725 in 2023. And part of that street outreach, we partner with St. Vincent de Paul, the Humboldt Area Foundation, Pacific Pantry. We always want to recognize our partners.
But what that is really building relationships so people can trust us. This isn't about a hand up, or a hand out, it's about a hand up, making connections with individuals so that we can connect them to services. Now, I believe that the decrease in the number is because we've helped people to where they don't need those services any longer. We also provide housing navigation, and that is in partnership with the county and the continuum of care. We've had a tremendous partnership with the county, and 74 people were permanently housed and many more in supportive housing. Another pilot project that we started was we looked at people who were being released from the hospital and they had no place to go, and that was causing them to have to continue to return back and putting a heavy burden on the hospitals. And so we started a pilot project through FEMA funds for recuperative care for individuals. And that was so successful that when that funding we ran out of it, then we connected with Partnership, and Partnership has a new program through CalAIM that is enhanced care management and community supports that provides those same things and also links people to advocacy to be able to make it to their doctor's appointments and just somebody to help them along. What was wonderful about this is we were already doing that in the community. So when they came up with this program, we were like, all right, we can get paid for what we're already doing. That's great. And so these are just a beginning of programs that we have had the honor of being able to help this community with.
And I think one of the main points is all of those pilot programs that were started with let's do this idea, we've been able to sustain. And I know sustainability is a big question about these larger services, and I think that we have a proven track record of being able to do that. So let's talk about our vision for the future. There's a couple of slides here, but basically what we're trying to do is the community needs space for those who are experiencing homelessness to achieve stability and find a path to permanent housing, dignity, and re-engagement. What we've been proposing through this IRF grant and what we're asking for today is the best way to do that. This is a picture of a sprung building. That is what we're looking for doing the congregate shelter. This particular one is in Kern County. There are several other counties and cities that have done sprung buildings for their shelters, and they work really well. Mission Possible tried to do this shelter thing on its own for probably 2 or 3 years. We looked at 38 different properties in the community, including some that were not even for sale. We have a very strong person on our board who happens to be a realtor who was not afraid to call people up and say, hey, is your property for sale? So we looked and looked. We've explored 3 of them seriously. One of them we were looking at a lease, couldn't come to financial agreement. 2 of them we actually put offers in and they fell through either because the property was not suitable for the use that we wanted to put on it. It was on well and septic and we couldn't get a big enough septic on the property, or because the community felt that it wasn't feasible, and that was the last attempt at the property on 101. So we actually came back and said, look, we can't do this on our own. We came back to the ad hoc committee, the subcommittee, and said we need help trying to figure out where to put the congregate shelter. And so the proposal to co-locate it on the already approved site where we were going to put the pallet homes is what came out of those conversations with the subcommittee and the ad hoc committee and all of our partners. As Renelle said, we've brought in the city, the county, police, sheriff, probation. We've talked to behavioral health, drug and alcohol. We've taken community feedback, and this seems to be the best path forward. The nice thing about Williams Drive is it utilizes property that's already owned by the county. We wouldn't be taking any private property off the tax rolls, which is a concern. It is not visible. I actually worked in that vicinity for several years and really never knew what was on that other side of mental health building. And it is going to be, that property will be improved, managed, used for good purposes, so it will actually have improvement over what it is now. So I am, let's see, okay, so not the stereotype. Go ahead and take that.
All right.
So I know a lot of people have ideas of what a shelter is. This is not it.
So, first of all, what this shelter model is all individuals are screened, that there's not a drop-in policy here. People are going to be, we're going to be using the relationship we already have with individuals in the encampments, and we are going to have peer support people come in, talk to them, bring them over to the navigation center that is on Elk Valley that we've already successfully run with no problem at our navigation center since last year in May. And they will, they'll do an application process, and we will talk to them about what they really want, because not all people are going to want this shelter. Some people, maybe we can talk them into going and moving in with family. There'll be different options because it is very client-centered. There will be no drop-in, and residents are screened off-site, and when they are, there is a bed that is open for them, we will call them, and we will bring them into the shelter. They are not coming in on their own. There is no visitors that are going on those facilities. It's going to be fenced. There's no lining up. There's no loitering, a strict no loitering policy. There is the pre-screening method. I have a quote here from the Ashland Police Department that the pre-screening method reduced police calls by 92%, opposed to when they ran a shelter that was not screened. So we will have that secured fencing. It's going to be a nice white vinyl fencing for those of you who are able to go over to the Rogue Retreat and see what they had. And so that fencing is really important. We're also going to have security cameras that are going to be monitored, and we are going to have staff, and we've been talking with the fairgrounds and also with CAL FIRE, and just trying to listen, because listening to our community is very important to us. And so we are discussing hiring some off-site security to be able to just, the people of Rogue Retreat, the founders, think possibly we don't need that, but why not try it? We're going to go ahead and try it because we're listening to the community. We are also going to be staffed. And what this means is this is not a volunteer staff. This is a trained staff who are trauma-informed, and everyone will also be trained in de-escalation and how to work with this particular clientele. Now, the secret sauce to this is that this is more than just a bed. This is about relationship-based case management. It's about goal setting, behavioral rules, accountability, opportunity, but more than that, it's about giving people an opportunity to attain their dreams. The people that we're targeting right now, they're scared and they work in a trauma mold. Many people think that they do have mental health disabilities, and some of them do. But trauma also appears like mental health. When someone is so scared to leave their camp because something is going to happen to them, they don't react like, they can't think of their future. Their brains become different and wired differently. This gives them an opportunity to be safe and to make the choices for their life to move forward. Now, another stereotype is that, these people that we're going to serve aren't from our community. According to the last pit count, 70% of those who were surveyed have been in our community for more than 5 years. Another stereotype is that, this is going to cause garbage. One of the things that our model is going to do is we're working on being an asset to the community. We are going to listen to our partners. We're having one person who they can call if anything is happening around those areas 24/7. Also, we're going to do neighborhood cleanups. So in actuality, this neighborhood's going to look better than it does right now, because we will have individuals who are volunteers who will have their vests on out cleaning up the neighboring areas. This is also going to be cost effective because we're going to be able to provide whole person care. We already work on this with Cal-AIM partnership. But what we're finding is when you have people in encampments, they can't make appointments. And so there's a lot of medical appointments. You can make those appointments with people, but if they can't make those appointments, it's costly. And our medical facilities can't do that right now. So we will be able to have them in a place where we can get them to their medical appointments and stop that heavy burden of medical costs that's on our community. Oh, I also had, on security, I had a quote from Lieutenant Jeff Kilpatrick from the Community Engagement Division of Medford Police Department. And he says, one of the concerns that I often hear from communities is that of skepticism, that when Rogue Retreat approaches them with a proposal to open a facility in their community, there's a fear that crime will rise, the general neighborhood appearance will diminish, and that the undesirables will impact general livability in that area. As a city that embraced 7 or more Rogue Retreat facilities within our city limit, I can assure you that that is not the case. As a nearly 20-year law enforcement professional, I have zero concern with the management, placement, and safety surroundings of these programs. In fact, I often tell community groups that the police calls for service at these facilities are usually less than in most of our affluent neighborhoods.
So this is kind of along the vision for the future. This is our conceptual campus map. You'll notice there's a big building missing from that map. Part of what we want to do with the IRF funding and as part of site preparation is to help the county and demolish that mental health building. That once that building is demolished, the pallet homes can go in that area, where that little white rectangle at the bottom is where we're asking that we be able to place the congregate shelter. So it becomes a campus model. This has a lot of advantages. One is flexibility of staffing. Instead of having to staff 2 completely separate sites, we can share staff. It makes it easier to have people who can respond to anything that's going on in either facility. It also provides people who are just coming into the shelter model with a vision for where you can go and say, hey, if you follow your program and meet your goals, you too can have one of these private cabins. And then it fosters that vision of success, and as opposed to the cycle of spiraling down. The red areas are that fence that we talked about. This is just a rough thing. Once we get a project manager, we'll be, sitting down and talking more about detail placement. But this is just to give an idea of what we're thinking of. And so that red is the fencing, and then that whole area in there is where Daphne was talking about, that we'll have people going out with the landowner's permission, and doing cleanup and doing, not necessarily security patrols, but at least just making it uninviting for anyone else to set up shop around that facility. So again, we want to talk a little bit about sustainability. We have a track record of, completing what we start and keeping it going. But we also have already been thinking about that. The co-location with the already approved village is a sustainability for the shelter. Again, because of staffing, because of, we only need 1 kitchen facility, perhaps. We can share some common area, those kind of economies we can get if they're co-located. We do have the ERF funding through, it has to be expended through June of 2026. So we have that for sure for then. We also have the ongoing contracts with partnership that Daphne mentioned, which is Medi-Cal, for those who don't know what partnership is. So those will provide for post-recuperative care beds or the case navigation. All of those things are fundable under that program. We are planning on approaching the hospital with contracts for beds for that recuperative care for those who don't fall under partnership. We're currently putting folks up right now in motels, which is challenging for a number of reasons, including the fact that we're occupying motel rooms that really are for folks who are coming to our community to enjoy themselves. So we'll have a place for folks to go that is specifically for those recuperative care services. Participant fees, that's one of the models that Rogue Retreat uses, is it's not rent, it's a participant fee for those who have income to give a little back to what they're getting. So far, the state is still identifying homelessness as a statewide problem. And I think as long as it is a problem in LA and San Francisco and Sacramento, it will continue to be a priority for the legislature to fund the ongoing funding that's coming from the state to the continuums of care and to the county. Private foundation grants and donors. We have a very committed donor base. We have one donor who has committed to funding our outreach and our housing efforts to the tune of $25,000 a year. How much did he? $30,000 a year. And we also have great relationships with Humboldt Area Foundation and several other funders in the community. And then social enterprises is another thing that Rogue Retreat has started. So we would like to do job training for example, the kitchen can be for culinary training for folks, and then we could do some catering as a social enterprise, lawn care, those kind of things. So there are options that we can do to generate funding for that. So we are thinking about sustainability. It's always going to be a challenge, but it's not like we're just going to get to June of 2026 and go, oh, we're done. So that is kind of the, oh, you have more about the campus.
I do.
You do. Talk about your stuff.
So in a book that we read from the founders of Rogue Retreat, when asked, what would you do differently, they said that they would have a centralized location because of sustainability, because of the power that comes from positive peer influence. This also is going to, it supports our tiered approach. And the services, again, are centralized. And this also helps us to keep the area secure. So we have all of our, everything is together. And so we're not spread out trying to keep one area secure and another area over town secure. This is it. So I just wanted to add that.
So that is what we have for our presentation. So any of us can answer whatever questions you have.
Yes, so do you have questions for us? Just a reminder, our ultimate goal is to create a continuum of housing services for the unhoused population of Del Norte County. And then we bring the specific ask of placing the shelter on the Williams Drive site with the pallet homes.
Any questions from the board?
Real quick. I counted, that would be 30 of the pallet homes initially. Do we expect to expand that at all?
That's just a conceptual map.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't to scale.
Yeah, our grant identifies 50 pallet homes.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 of those are ADA accessible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this in the Sprung building, there was 60 beds? Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And then the question I have that with the funding from the IRF grant, we're able to demolish the mental health building.
Yes.
We're going to be displacing search and rescue. Is there funding in there to help relocate search and rescue to a different location?
No. We've been in conversations with the sheriff from the beginning when we knew that we were, well, even prior to being awarded the funds, when we were completing the application. So we've discussed different options. I have asked the state specifically if relocation costs are an allowable expense, and they said no. However, we are able to cover the cost of the demolition, which I think we're estimating $300-ish thousand probably. We're not sure on what that is.
Okay.
But the grant should be able to cover the entire cost of that in lieu of the general fund paying for that.
Okay, so then perhaps we can draw on the general fund for relocation.
Yes.
And then my final question is, on the fencing around, it looks like it's butting up right to where the ag department is. They won't be interfering with the ag department's business, is that correct? Because that fence will be there, it'll be very separate, so it's not going to interfere with ag, because they recently relocated.
Correct. Yeah, and again, that's just a conceptual map. You know, we're continuing.
It's not to scale,
Not to scale, not exactly where it is, where the utilities are exactly. You know, we'll get that project manager on board. We'll continue discussions. You know, I was talking to Justin recently about his concerns and any impacts. So we'll definitely take that into consideration when we finalize where the fence goes to make sure that the ag department is getting their needs met.
Great, thank you for that.
Was there not discussions of paying rent to the sheriff for the triple wide that's there and that filtering through?
There were some initial discussions about that. We've been, a group of us have been researching actually who owns that building. So I don't know, do you want me to speak to that, Neil, or do you have anything you want to? It's still undetermined, and so, you know, to determine who pays rent to who is still not certain. However, this grant would provide the funding to renovate it and, you know, make it a more useful building in the future for the county.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
My turn?
Yeah, your
Okay.
turn.
So, appreciate the presentation. It clarified a lot of things. I would highly request and recommend that this was done before the budget transfer would have been ideal. I think there was so much uprise and concern because people's minds went wild, including my own. I mean, we're just throwing away $10.8 million. We have no idea where it's going. So in future, whatever the case may be, I would love to see this beforehand. That would be great. Now seeing the presentation plus taking the visit, I have a completely different idea of what your vision is. And I think a lot of people would have saw it differently if they saw that as well. So the question about staff, is staff going to be provided with like benefits and retirement and all that, or how does that work? Because I noticed you have like $3 million towards staffing over, you know, a year and a half or 2 year period. And at the end of 2026, I think you addressed some of looking forward to finances, but that's a big number. And to keep that up, how do you plan to, I mean, are those benefits included? And I guess you kind of addressed your hopes for financing in the future, but.
Yeah, so right now, the staffing includes salaries that are, there are none that are less than $20 an hour, because since McDonald's pays $20 an hour, that's our new minimum wage now. So they are, most of them are full-time or, you know, like shared positions where 2 part-time people, so we budgeted at full-time. They include paid holidays, paid vacation, retirement benefits. The one thing that I haven't been able to crack the nut of providing health insurance. It's just so expensive for a small organization to try to provide that I have to make the choice between, do I provide health insurance or do I hire 2 more people? And so far, we just haven't been able to do the health insurance part. That has been the model that the senior center has been sustainable with. I want to make sure that we get good people and are able to keep them. So I believe in paying as much of a living wage as we can. That's just part of the sustainability question that we have to answer. And again, as we've also kind of staffed rich in the budget, because you always budget for more and then see what you really need. So as we go along, we'll see you know, how much of that staff do we need, how much of that staff? But a lot of the staffing is going to be ongoing, supported by the CalAIM partnership. Case management it's billable to Medi-Cal. So we can bill those, as long as they discover that providing upfront services is cheaper than providing emergency care, then they'll continue to be able to fund community-based organizations to provide those preventive services.
And do you have an estimate on just wages? Or do you not have that broken down, like an annual wage?
I do,
cost?
but not off the top of my
Gotcha.
head.
No problem.
Yeah, I can get that to you.
No problem. And then the pallet shelters, the tour we took, I didn't like them, which doesn't mean anything. I mean, other than the fact that I don't like them, but they seemed very cold and very blank and just not welcoming. I guess it'd be better than living in tents by far. But I know we took another tour of another facility there that had more of a built design to it. So it says pallet homes and the design says pallet structures and everything. Is that the model you're moving forward with, or is it still discussing?
So part of the reason that, because of our timeline, the pallet homes are one of the three that we do not, that the state has identified that you can use them without getting a bid. And also they come very quickly, so they meet our timeline. I heard what people were saying as far as those foldums, that they really liked them. So I'm gonna shoot that to our ad hoc, but that is where we chose the pallets. Now, in hearing what you're saying about them being cold, we want people to be sheltered and safe, but we do not want them to be so comfortable that this is their place. We want them motivated to move on so that they can have their own home. So that's part of that. These are also very durable, the pallets, and easily cleaned, which is very nice. And you can have storage inside of these facilities, like underneath the beds, where the foldums really didn't have that.
Okay. And then moving on to the people that are acquired in the shelters, are sex offenders eliminated from that, giving the location that it's going to be by the child center or the youth center? Is that a screening process that's done and eliminated from that area?
Yeah, that is part of the screening process.
Okay. And then foot traffic. I know when we went on our tour, they like to kick everybody out for the day.
Right.
And so is that going to be, everyone, or is there bus services provided, or is it just walk out and go somewhere?
Well, everyone will have a case plan, and part of that intake procedure is to let people know that when we're going to be very respectful of our neighbors because you love what we're doing here and being safe, let's help you be a part of staying safe. That's a model that has worked very well. That's how we've kept the women's transitional home safe, the navigation center safe, is just giving people ownership over those things. Now, when you say foot traffic, one of the things that's very good about this site is that it's back more. We listened to what Lonnie had to say about, people going down that road and, being close to juvenile hall. So this site is ideal for that. And the individuals that are going to be they're going to be going to work. They're not going to have shopping carts. They're not going to have backpacks. They're going to look like us. They're going to be clean.
And I'll definitely give you, after taking that tour, these places that I visited, you couldn't even tell. It was very clean. It was very, very different than what your mind goes to when you picture homeless shelters. So I'll give you a lot of credit on that.
I'm glad you went.
Yeah, me too. And then my final question.
Can I just add really quick?
Absolutely.
One of the things too is we're not just going to have necessarily a mass exodus of people going out. It's going to depend on what their case plan is as to where they go and when. So somebody might have an appointment at 10 o'clock, so they're going to be there until 10 o'clock, and then they'll go to their appointment. So, but that is one thing we'll have to take a look at as far as, it'd be great if we could talk to RCT about, put put a bus stop right there. That would
There is
be
a bus stop there.
ultimately a really good thing. So, as we're developing this, we'll see where the things are. We don't have all of this. We may sound like we know what we're doing, but we don't have it all down yet. There's going to be a lot of learning along the way, and we'll be listening to people and making adjustments as we go.
And then my final question, since item number 2 on here is discussing about potentially the location and giving approval, the last time you guys were here, you asked me, I guess, was if I could find a property anywhere, let you know. And I had found one, and I sent that, I believe, and they were in contact, but never heard back. And it was a warehouse on Elk Valley. It's completely empty, abandoned, but they have said they never
Two
received.
words, Coastal Commission.
Oh,
Anything
it's
in
in
the
the-
coastal zone the permitting process will not fit into this timeline.
Even though there's no building being built?
Well, it's still, it's not building the building, but it would require a substantial renovation, and the Coastal Commission would still have things to say about that.
It's not zoned for a shelter? So
Yeah, it's not
We'd have
zoned.
to ask for a
Even if it's
special
zoned
permit?
commercial?
Yeah, it's not zoned for a shelter, so that would
Yeah,
not fit
I
in
think
that
we did,
timeline.
somebody did explore that.
Okay. Yes.
And that was the problem.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Okay.
Thank you. Like I said, almost got you. Thank you for their presentation. Again, what I've made clear to a lot of people that are concerned about this is again, just like you said, this is just a process by which we try to assist and help those that are out there that desire that help, and that when they do come into the shelter, the assessment is done, and then there's a contractual agreement that they must engage in, that they are willing to go into programming in order to stay in these facilities. It's not a matter of they just get a bed. There is a requirement that they engage in programming up to address their issues that have been identified by the intake. And so it's not just come and get a bed. You have to be a participant in your own resolution of your issues. And so it's a different model than what so many other attempts at housing. Housing First was a failure and has been a drastic failure throughout the state of California, because there's no requirement to try to address the issues that surround that individual that have led them to this position of being in this state. And so for that, I'm thankful. I know one of our concerns is so that we as a county can engage in trying to do the things outside of the shelter. And I am very, you've looked, putting that shelter in that central location along with the other facilities, I think is good. But again, we need to have, as a part and party to this solution, we have to have that, again, like we saw at Rogue Retreat, that low threshold, not only into the shelter, but also having an availability of tents set up in camping. So that has to be an integral component of what we are engaging and trying to bring individuals in, because that's, again, that's most of how they feel comfortable at this point in time, because that's how they live in much of our area, in our rural areas. They don't have any sustained built shelters, although some have constructed their own or dragged them in. But having those tents available, and all the tents that we saw at at the Rogue Retreat were those that are provided by the service, by the shelter services there. So they're not dragging in their own tents. They're being, the things that they're being provided to camp there, to be housed there, are ones that are provided by, much like we already do, provide those kinds of services already to those that need those homeless shelters. At that point, is there any other comments or public comment to this at this time?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions. As we know, in the state of California, I believe the Housing First model has been around for probably a dozen years or more. I think that's the first time I started hearing about it was probably in 2012 or so. And since that time, has that model has taken on a world of its own, the homeless population in the state of California has actually exploded. And I know that Chair Wilson has said that there are a lot of different forms of housing first, but it doesn't appear to matter what form it takes. The housing first model doesn't seem to be addressing the issue. Here in this county, we've already had an instance where we provided, I don't know whether you want to call it temporary or transition housing. I don't know how you want to split the hairs, but it has failed to halt the increase of homelessness here in the county. In fact, it nearly doubled after the original site was formed on 101 and with the legacy. So I'm wondering how, I mean, it sounds like, you know, we've got the problem solved if we're listening to what I've just heard, but it doesn't seem to be playing out, at least statewide. It doesn't even seem to be playing out here in the local area. So I'm curious as to what makes anybody think that this is going to work, and how is putting 110 people in a permanent or temporary or emergency bed situation with all sorts of bells and whistles attached to it going to address the fact that there's still, at least according to the latest PIT, 561 remaining homeless in the county, and probably that's not even an accurate figure of the number of actual homeless in the county. So I'm thinking that perhaps this may appear to be some sort of a solution for the county. It may not be. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Yeah, that's just, my name is Ben Zumeta, and just to counter that point, it seems like that's to say that what interventions have been done have not solved the homeless problem is disregarding the nature of the world that we're living in, and the fact that, like, we have huge numbers of people displaced by fires and economic turmoil, people from outside the state. The weather here is better than a lot of other places to be homeless, so it's always going to be an attractant for that. So it seems illogical, irresponsible, unethical to turn down this, what seems like a very well-reasoned proposal that will actually, if you think about the money coming into the county, both the money that goes to the employees as well as to those served, like a lot of that money will be spent in the county, then further benefiting private businesses who will, you know, provide goods and services for those people. So it just seems like I, for one, as a resident, don't expect any individual or single solution. Even with $11 million, it sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not in the grand scheme of things to completely solve this. But it seems I strongly endorse this proposal and very much hope that you carry it through. So,
thank you.
Is it still morning or afternoon? I don't
Afternoon.
know. But good morning. Okay. So I just want to share really briefly, because our presentation was so amazing that I feel like I really have nothing to add except for this. I'm Lisa McCowan, and I live in the county, and I'm president of Mission Possible. And I'm proud to say that. What I've seen in 4 full years, we're going into our 5th right now, is progress. Not perfection, but I've seen progress. What I've learned, unlike the private sector, this takes time. I'm used to getting things done, I'm used to making things happen, and talk about arduous, this has taken time. Though getting things done does not go hand in hand with working with local government and or a nonprofit. And Charlene is constantly teaching me that lesson. However, all I want to say is this. We have an amazing executive team. You saw that right now. We have an amazing board. And in closing, I'm just going to say this. Now we need you. Let's get something done. The time is now. The infrastructure is here. The money is here. Let's get together and make it happen. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I think what Joey said is exactly right. This presentation would have been helpful at your last meeting. That's what I was thinking at the time, too. There was a lot of misunderstandings. But this is a little bit different, and I know you recognize that, but I want to speak to the change that they're proposing, which is the idea of putting it all in one place, you know, putting the emergency shelter in the same location. And I just would encourage you to support that and take whatever steps you need to take as quickly as possible, because you can hear the clock ticking and when they're doing their presentation. The grant is good for another couple of years, and man, you could have this all set up and really, really take a big dent out of this. And these people are sharp. I mean, you are too, but you know, you have good partners to work with, and so jump on this and do whatever you have to do to get that property available for them. That's what I would encourage you to do.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ellie Kimbauer, and I am a board member of Mission Possible. Was part of the founding board for Daphne to launch this kind of vision. And I want to just say, I didn't come prepared to speak, but I want to say how much I so appreciate the growth of understanding, of vision, of how we can integrate, you know, so many of our communities' concerns. And I just want to thank you so much for your roles in this. Excuse me, for going to, you know, Road Retreat, for really understanding, for being part of the subcommittee or the ad hoc committee. True North, it has been over the years as I've seen things evolve. The other thing is I'm a retired clinical psychologist here in the community. Pardon me. And having, you know, had my, working with the A Street Clinic at the time, it's a behavioral health program, and then now, you know, having had almost 20 years of having my own practice here, what I came to realize is exactly what Daphne is teaching us and demonstrating to us, and that is things are all about relationship and mental health, you know, interpersonal health. It takes communication, it takes presence, it takes a certain amount of, you know, ability to problem solve. So mental health is not just, of course, about medications, though that's a huge component, but there are so many relationship-based interventions that we can do that empower people to be, you know, the kinds of people that they've wanted to be or that they've looked up at. So mental health, when I think about what I'm doing now, no, it is not a private practice, helping individuals, families, you know, and employees and so forth. It is community mental health. We all need to be able to have a community that, you know, puts people and relationships first, and that looks beyond titles or looks beyond status, and then can say, hey, I hear you, and I may not be able to relate to what you're living with, but I can see this is an avenue to your life connecting with these lives. And this sense of partnership, relationship, I mean, that is the difference, y'all. When we're seeing and hearing all of these wonderful things that are on paper, the difference is, can you be a person who can connect with other people? Not just your phone, not just online, you know. So anyway, community mental health, Mission Possible, thank you so much. Thank you for helping us get to this point. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Board. That was a really good presentation, and it's good to see that passion. You know, people making a difference. You know, I think it's ingenuous to not be talking about the real estate market and jobs, you know, when we talk about homeless. And we need to have a conclusive discussion, right? like how many homeless are there really? 500 give or take? And this proposal is for pallet homes so it'll maybe house 100 or so. So we're taking care of 20% of the problem with 10 million. Wondering about the Legacy Hotel, if that'll go back to a regular hotel once we have this, or if the Legacy will stay the same. Pallet homes, just doesn't seem to be a viable solution when you consider scales of economy, right? We need more like a hotel there, right, to house a few hundred, the way the problem is growing. So I'm wondering if we just really have that strategic plan right now. What are we going to do with the people that we aren't able to get into housing, right? And so it's a good discussion. We have, seems like there's a lot of potential locations, a lot of commercial real estate empty. The fire department in Smith River, Barrow Ranch, you guys own that already. It's got beds in it. Juvenile Hall has beds. The state facility has a few hundred. So it'd be good to talk about the problem as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. You can pull the mic down.
Hi, I'm Talia Tuttle. I'm actually going to be one of the peer support people with this program, and I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of my background, not a whole lot of it, but just that I've been through what the process for this and come out a much better person and productive member of society. Something that I've had a hard time being since adulthood. And it's really shown me, taught me skills, like life skills, how to live, how to be a productive member of society, how to give back to my community what is so freely given. And I just maybe wanted to introduce myself as somebody who's going to be helping these people learn, as somebody who's just recently been through it myself. And I couldn't have done it without this program. And I only see it getting bigger and more beautiful. And I think this is just the start of something so great. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's Chris. It seemed like when it came down to contracts and whether or not the individuals could have people come visit them, and also why they're paying possible participation fees, that would seem to maybe fall into the realm of renters agreement type thing, to where how can you not let somebody have their family come visit them? How can you not have some friends, like close friends, relatives? That seems like maybe a legal issue that should be looked into slightly. And also the size of the buildings. It doesn't actually seem that it might be able to support 60 buildings in that location. They have to be at least 220 square feet. So those are my comments. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, bring it back to the board.
So I think what we are hoping to do today, if I'm reading the board report right, is to give direction for use of the Williams Drive as a potential emergency shelter and pallet homes location as requested by DHHS. If that's the case, I'd like to make a motion that we give that direction today.
So before, maybe I just want to comment off of some of the comments I heard. Is that okay? So I guess I've obviously been the biggest opponent of all of this for everyone. No secret there. And so to address Sam's comments, is this going to clear out the swamps? Is this going to take, the drug addicts off the street? Absolutely not. I mean, everybody knows that. I don't think that's what this is for. But after taking the tour and after seeing the presentation and after talking to, I do believe that this will provide a clear pathway, steps for the people who actually want the help and can progress like Ms. Tuttle did there. I mean, this will implement and help some of those people and provide the clear pathway. And so that, as far as that angle of it, I agree with everything that's been presented. And is it going to clear the swamps? No, it's not. But I don't believe that's what it's intended for. Is that a fair summary? Okay.
Yeah, I'm just kind of dovetailing off of those comments out there. Daphne mentioned the ladies' home that we've had 48 women in. That doesn't mean that there's room for 48 women there, 6 at a time over the past few years, and we've had that kind of success. So, yeah, just kind of wanted to throw that out there as well. And I wanted also to second the motion.
And as we go forward, it's unfortunate that we had so much trouble seating this originally. I know you've looked for a long time. However, you know, it may have been a blessing in disguise that we're actually going to be centralizing all these services in one location, as opposed to having it campused out. Because with that centralization, it's going to limit the need for additional facilities, shower, laundry, cooking, etc. You don't have to have 3 kitchens now. We can focus in on one, and it's not the ideal, but it is where we have right now the room and the facilities that we are going to put in place. It'll save us dollars, so that hopefully we can use those dollars for other issue or for other parts of this component program that we're putting together. And with that, I'll ask for poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Borges?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes. Now, the other part, while everyone's fidgeting in a seat, we'll take a 5-minute break, please. Oh, yeah. Well, we got to wait. Hold on. We got to wait for Neil and Jackie. I jumped ahead of myself. Squash that last one. Cancel my comment. We have to wait for Neil. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He doesn't need to listen to this. We got county council. We're good. Yeah. Yeah, okay. We're going to roll without Neil. So we're going to the 11 o'clock time item, receive Mental Health Services Act reform presentation by the Department of Health and Human Services.
We're only an hour and 20 minutes late, Cheyenne.
Yeah.
That's all right. I was patiently waiting. There was much bigger and important things.
Better than me.
I'll wait for my presentation to come up in here, but I'm Cheyenne Hogan, the Deputy Director for Del Norte County Department of Health and Human Services Behavioral Health Branch. And I wanted to bring before you some information about MHSA, Mental Health Services Act, and some items that are coming before the voters right now. So a background around MHSA is this was passed by voters in 2004. It's known as Proposition 63. It's a 1% tax on those individuals in California who earn an income of over $1 million. That money then is used to expand mental health services throughout the state of California with a focus on prevention, treatment, and innovation. Currently, our office uses this pot of money in a variety of ways. So the money is broken into several buckets or components, and I'm going to focus on two of the major ones today. One of those is community services and supports. We use that to fund our service center, where clients go for group services, case management services, one-on-one appointments, all kinds of different things. And it's located over off of Birchall here in Crescent City. And then our same-day services, which operate our crisis services currently. This is our kind of in-house, at our office crisis, as well as our crisis services that respond out to the emergency room, the jail, and previously at the juvenile hall. The same-day team also performs screenings of all the clients coming into services as part of the new CalAIM reform items. We fund our ARCH team under this, so it's adults returning and remaining in community homes, and that's really focused on taking people who have been in long-term psychiatric placements and working with those facilities to really have good plans for that client to return to our community, and then also keeping people here in the community and not having to go to psychiatric facilities. And then one thing that we funded last year in our plan was the PATH, so that's our Providing Access to Hope. That's our mobile crisis team. So we did receive the exemption from the state to not have to go live with that until July of this year, but we did set aside money to kind of prepare and plan for that. In our prevention and early intervention program, so another pot of the money, we operate directly from the county, a few different programs. One of those is Reach for Success Mentoring Program, our Coastal Connections Transitional Age Youth Center, Strengthening Families, Community Outreach Providing Education, known as COPE, and also Mental Health First Aid Connecting the Dots. Also, in the same pot of money, under prevention and early intervention, we have community partnerships. One of those is with the Boys and Girls Club of the Yurok Tribe, the Del Norte Recreation Department, and the Family Resource Center. And they provide an array of different programs and services that are really defined and outlined in our MHSA plan that you can read more about on our website. So funding history to this program under MHSA, these are actual funds that we have received here in Del Norte County. So as you can see, it's declining. And that's probably, some result of the pandemic. That's some result of millionaires moving out of the state of California. All of those things that have impacted that. One thing I would highlight, to show on fiscal year 22-23, we actually received 65% of the funds that we expected only. And that, could be a variety of things. We do fiscal forecasting. We work with Mike Geis, who's a fiscal forecaster for behavioral health items, as well as California County Behavioral Health Directors Association, to really kind of estimate what we think that we're going to bring in. This is one of the most volatile types of money, much like the general fund is, that it fluctuates as people earn more or earn less or leave California or move in, the money changes. This year we're expected to rise back up to approximately $3.5 million. So hopefully that comes to fruition and that we see all those dollars. So what's right now before us is Proposition 1. So Governor Newsom signed Senate Bill 326, modernizing the Mental Health Services Act, and Bill 531, which is a $6.38 billion bond to build new behavioral health housing and treatment facilities across the state. It's collectively known as Proposition 1. It's currently on ballots for people to submit their votes here in March. And so that's what I want to really speak to you guys about, is what this will do here to Del Norte County. Some components of Proposition 1, it has really two major focuses. One is to change that original proposition that was passed by voters in 2004, which changes the focus of how the money can be spent. And number two, it authorizes that bond to build the behavioral health care beds that would be funded throughout the entire state. And some of those are kind of allocated into specific pots, I guess, if you will, whether they're for facilities or for housing and those types of things. So next item here is just a little bit more on that with the bond. So it's estimated to cost, to repay the bond, $310 million annually over the next 30 years that would be funded from the state general fund. It would build 6,800 places for people to receive mental health and drug and alcohol services. And the estimate is that the bond would build 4,350 housing units, with 2,350 of them set aside for veterans specifically. My concern with this really is about the fact that for Del Norte County and really the whole kind of northern half of California, we really lack any type of psychiatric beds. We're very limited. And my concern is that while funds might be set aside for these things, likely those beds are going to be in LA, San Diego, Riverside. They're not going to come to the North Coast and serve our clients. I imagine that some of these funds, as they're being set aside, would be competitive grants that we can apply for and such. But again, we're going to be competing with very large counties. They could probably do a lot more than we could do, even just putting the grant together itself. So that's, one of the biggest concerns to me around this is the fact that this is comboed together. I could kind of agree around MHSA reform needing to happen, because there's some things I'd like to see change in it. My biggest concern is that this bond's attached in there, which then, allocates potential beds, which I would say we need, but I doubt they're going to come to our area. Some other things just to talk about those local impacts. It's worth noting that Proposition 1 would not change the tax on people with income over $1 million. This means that counties would be expected to expand their scope of services without any increase in the revenue. In fact, county leaders have repeatedly raised concerns about the disruption that Proposition 1 would cause. Specifically, MHSA restructuring could result in significantly less funding for core services that would lead counties to do the following things, which is canceling contracts with community-based providers. For us, that might look like canceling our agreement with the Yurok Boys and Girls Club, canceling our agreement with the FRC, closing programs that currently serve Californians. So for us, that might be our service center. It could be our same-day crisis services, and reducing county staff. Del Norte would see a major shift in our PEI programs for the most part. We would have to find other programming or funding to support those programmings if we wanted to continue them, or we would likely need to completely overhaul those programs into something new. I mentioned those big concerns that I have about the partnerships we have with other agencies. One thing I thought was interesting is, we've helped fund programs in the rec department for several years now. And this year for youth basketball, they had record enrollment, the most kids that have ever enrolled into rec basketball. Not only is that giving kids healthy places to engage in things and connect with healthy adults and all of those things, but it also provided job training, I guess, if you will, for a lot of youth. So there's approximately 30 individuals ages 14 to 18 who are working to support youth basketball. So this impacts all of that if we see a change in this MHSA funding. Some of the other things, there's some requirements in the reform that requires you to allocate 30% of your funds to housing. Now, there are small county exceptions that can be made to that, and I would recommend that we apply for those small county exceptions, because that would tie up a significant portion of our funding. But what that exact exemption process is going to look like and what that means we do with the funds after that is not quite spelled out to me at this point. It's something I continue to keep following and monitoring throughout the state. The other thing, it creates some mandates associated with Department of Healthcare Services to align our contract terms to be similar to what is managed care plans, so MCPs and behavioral health plans. And it requires annual reporting and attestations from the Board of Supervisors that you would be attesting that the county is meeting the obligations to provide these realigned services. It shifts a big portion of the money from the county's discretion to the state's discretion. So instead of taking 5% off the top that they do right now, they'll take 10, which roughly would be $140 million. And it requires a significant administrative increase. We recently did a modeling where we looked at all the new administrative mandates. So new things we have to monitor, account for, meetings we have to hold, data we have to report, all of those things. And I estimate I need at least probably 2 additional staff to do that work. It cannot be absorbed into the current workforce that we have. So it creates this heavy administrative burden onto an already max staff as well. So this is some fiscal modeling that we did with the help of CBHDA. So on the left here, you can see what our kind of current modeling of our components look like for 22-23, and then kind of hypothetically what things would look like as reform might pass. And we did a few different scenarios to this. So this is just one of the scenarios that we modeled. I think the big one to highlight in this is that general system delivery. So all of those services I mentioned at the beginning that do the service center, the crisis, et cetera, currently it eats about 52% of our pie, right? So that's on the left. Over on the right, it's down to 22%. So it's trying to fit all those programs that we have to, half the budget, as well as changing up several of the other pie, of the money, most of that with PEI. Some of that has to do with FSP dollars, which is our full service partnership program as well. So again, the biggest concerns I see is just the local aspect about our discretion to decide what our community needs, right? That this will be vastly impacted and really cause a reduction overall in services. This is just a quick little highlight to you of really the timeline for this, because I think that's been a big thing in people's minds too, is like, if this passes, when do you have to start it? And so this slide displays that timeline. If it passes, the counties would need to implement by July 2027, following the Board of Supervisors approval of an MHSA plan, which usually is presented to you guys in June. And then happy to answer any questions. The other thing I just want to highlight really quick too is just that we every year conduct MHSA stakeholder meetings. That's where the community can come to us and tell us what you like about our programs, new programs you'd like us to fund, new ideas, whatever it might be. We hold those usually a couple times. So we have one coming up on February 21st from 5:30 to 7 p.m. and then one on February 26th from 12 to 1:30 p.m. And both of these will be held at 880 North Crest, the Social Services Office, as well as a Zoom option. And if you need information about linking to that, you can reach out to me at the office, and that number is 707-464-7224. Questions?
Well, I don't have too many questions. I guess I wasn't paying attention about the bond. So it's not only reallocating the way the MHSA dollars are allocated now, it's also adding the bond, and then the $310 million payment a year. Will that come off the MHSA amount, or is that somehow being?
I believe it comes out of the general fund.
Okay. And then what do you, if this passes, which I'm going to be honest, it's likely going to pass, what can this board do to make sure that there are rural exceptions, that we do get the psychiatric beds up here, at least regionally, between Humboldt, Mendocino, Trinity? Mm-hmm. What in your mind, I mean, you're just kind of hoping on a prayer that it doesn't pass, and then, but if it does, are you going to come back and let this board know how we can advocate strong at the state level, mm-hmm. so that we're getting the services that we need in this community?
Yes, certainly. So if this passes, and I want to hope in a prayer it doesn't, but definitely we would engage a lot of community stakeholders, including yourselves, on the advocacy for beds in the North Coast. I know that recently I had a meeting with Sutter Coast Hospital with Mitch Hanna as he's exiting as the CAO, and Michael Lane coming on, about kind of this idea, right, is like, what can the hospital even do to help support that beds are built here in the north part of California above Sacramento? That's not Northern California. And so really getting those up here, because that's imperative. It's traumatic for individuals to have to be sent so far away to psychiatric hospitals. And so I think that if we can get something, even if it's regionally and it's 4 hours away rather than 6 hours away or 8 hours away, would be extremely helpful. I think the other parts would be, everybody's kind of input into the creativity about how we change things, particularly around our prevention and early intervention programs. Are there creative ways where we can kind of still structure and have some of those programs with maybe just kind of new evidence-based practices we can throw into them? I recently had met with John Horner from the rec department around this, just on an aspect of, we've been supporting youth basketball or kids camp. Can we throw the early intervention pieces into those programmings to help still support it? Maybe not in the full amount that we were, but still where we can get a portion of our funding into there to support those things. So I think that it'll be creativity that needs to happen.
And my final comment is that with this shift in these things, pivoting and turning, just really make sure that we are strengthening our relationship with the school district, who has funding in these areas. So perhaps we can work with the school district to keep the coastal connections, to keep other funding or other services still being funded. So that would just be my last.
Yeah, certainly. I think that particularly around youth services, I think that we could really benefit from all kind of coming to the table. I think that many of us don't really know even who's all doing what. I'd like to do some sort of kind of a town hall around that. Hopefully with Valerie's help to do that. She did a great job doing that for older adults. I think that the same thing for youth, because I do think we're going to have to consider how to braid our funding and support all those programs, and kind of, maybe cross-support each other.
Mr. Chairman, Cheyenne, you spoke to an attestation that the board would have to make if this all passed, saying that we were complying with everything?
Yes.
What if we aren't able to comply? What are the consequences then?
Great question. I don't know. I don't know if that's spelled out in anything. I will say that MHSA is audited in a few different ways. So we do fiscal audits, we do program audits. I imagine through some of those audits, we would end up on corrective actions to items where usually we'll write up a plan about how we're going to come into compliance. I haven't heard anything about fiscal sanctions if you're not conforming to certain items, but seeing what they're doing on other ends of things, that's very likely. The state is really moving towards these fiscal sanctions to counties when they're not in compliance with regulations. So that could be in the future.
Wondering. They're going to take money from us and then tell us we have to abide by this program, and then when we don't, they're going to take more money from us. I guess we just don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
So for me, what is, in your path, your critical response, what is the makeup of a single unit? What personnel do you have to have inside?
For the mobile crisis team, it's got to be 2 staff that respond face-to-face, and they have to have the ability to do a telehealth consultation with a licensed clinical staff. So 2 people. Our makeup of that is going to be as called a behavioral health specialist and hopefully a certified peer support specialist. Both of them would be full-time staff. And the mobile crisis is required to be 24/7, 365 days a year.
So you have 2 staff, but you're going to have to replicate that 5 times roughly. So.
We're estimating that we need 8 staff to really cover the work week and contingent plans of sickness, vacations, all of those things.
Okay. And because like I say, we're struggling right now as it is with trying to even meet our current goal. And the other thing with the dollars, it's evident that whatever approach we take, it's going to have to be something that's done regionally, because you have not only mental health facility, just residential treatment facilities, but then the requirement is that you also have custodial facilities, those that are locked up and cannot roam free, that are required, and just the key personnel that would be required to do those kinds of jobs, the nursing and medical and psychological staff, we don't even have them here at this point in time, let alone, so I can see where the only solution for Delaware County, at least, and many of the counties that whether it's Modoc or Siskiyou or Lassen or Trinity or Humboldt, is to have a regional approach to meet our solutions jointly, because individually it's just not going to work out. I don't see.
Yeah. I even foresee that on the mobile team, where we have to have that clinical consultation aspect that, what I'd like to see is kind of a regional agreement with somebody who could do that for a variety of counties that help kind of minimize some of our cost. Those people are really doing on-call work, right? So I don't need them, just sitting by the computer waiting to come on, right? We would on-call them. They'd have, a response time to get on and be able to telehealth with us. So, yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. Go ahead.
Chair Wilson, you brought up something that made me think. So the facilities that the state is proposing to be built, would that be state-run facilities?
Not to my understanding.
Okay,
no.
okay, that's concerning.
No. That's not how they're doing this.
Yeah.
And, anything? Thank you so much for your
you're welcome.
presentation.
Thank
Any
you.
public comment or questions at this time? Seeing none. Okay. We're going to move on to the regular scheduled agenda. First of all, let us finish up our two remaining issues off our consent, which was both 11 and 17, correct?
I believe that's right.
So you had questions about 11, Joey?
Yeah, I was just hoping to get a clarification about the Sutter link and what exactly that is and what it does and what you're trying to accomplish.
I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. So Sutterlink is basically the electronic health record system that Sutter Coast uses. So we mentioned before in the earlier presentation, we talked about CalAIM and the changes in reform to CalAIM. Some of that includes some health information exchange requirements. So that means that our systems need to talk to each other. Currently, we're already receiving this information, which is just usually via fax or some other form. And the information that we're receiving, we're required to by different regulations or laws that's cited here in the board report for communicable diseases, for coordination of care for our foster care youth, things like that, that we're required to talk to one another, the other providers, so our public health team would talk to them to receive that information. And the hospital and the clinics actually prefer us moving to this electronic model. So we are asking to do this specifically for Sutter. Open Door Clinic has a different system, so we'll be bringing that to the board as well for approval.
Okay, so just for clarification, it's not like an open, they can look at anyone's medical records.
Correct. I mean, we look into a medical record, but it is monitored. They can see exactly what we see, and we have access to certain information.
Okay.
And understandable from what your direction, this is read-only.
Yes.
So you don't have access to enter data or
Correct.
change data or delete data. It is just a read-only.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
That answers my questions.
I move we approve item number 11.
Okay, I'll second that.
We have a first, second. Please poll the vote.
Chair, are you going to take public comment?
Oh, any public comment on this issue? Sorry. Okay, poll the vote.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Borges?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes. Now we'll address 17.
Okay, in regard to this, we got I believe all of us probably got a email yesterday from the Fish and Game Commission about this proposed change of regulations. And in reading that, I discovered that the March 26th meeting isn't the only meeting they're having about this.
Right.
They're having a meeting tomorrow and the next day. And I didn't know if anybody knew, I certainly don't, why they're having two meetings and only kind of plainly stated that you could make a public comment at the March meeting. And then as you read down, you discover that there is the meeting tomorrow and the next day. So I was curious of what the board's thoughts were about trying to get this letter signed and transmitted for that meeting tomorrow, in addition to the March meeting. I don't know why they would have two different meetings, two different comment periods. I don't know if strategically it would be better to talk at tomorrow's meeting and not the March meeting, or maybe both. I don't know. I don't know why they would have the two different meetings. So I would like to just put that out there for discussion. Also, at the bottom of our letter here, it is CC'd to the director of the Department of Fish and Wildlife. I would like to ask that we also CC this to the California Natural Resources Agency Secretary Wade Crowfoot. And the reason is because we got to talk to him at the last RCRC board meeting, and he said that this was not on his radar. So I would definitely like to keep this on his radar and let him know about our comments to the commission.
Did you happen to notice if the meeting for tomorrow, was it the same agenda? Did you notice that?
It's addressing the same issues.
I believe it's the same agenda, yes.
It's addressing the same issues.
Yes.
I believe tomorrow's meeting is the Fish and Game, is that correct? Fish and Wildlife? This agenda item is for the Pacific fisheries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not get the email
Yeah, I
that
don't
you're
believe I did
talking about, Supervisor Short. However, I do know that the Fish and Game locally has a meeting for tomorrow. Is that correct? Is that what you're saying, CAO Lopez?
I just was making the comment that the difference, tomorrow's meeting is Fish and Game. The March meeting this item is addressing is the Pacific fisheries.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't get the email, so I can't weigh in.
That's maybe where I'm confused, is that there's also a March meeting for Fish and Game as well.
Yeah, they space these out regionally, but Fish and Wildlife does.
But they're talking about the same things.
Yeah, it's on their topic line, yeah.
So maybe this doesn't apply to the Fish and Games meeting then. So I'll go ahead and just scratch that part of the discussion, but I still would like to ask that we CC this to Secretary Crowfoot and make that addition to the letter.
Okay, any public comment? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I will move that we approve that letter with the addition of the CC to the Secretary Crowfoot.
I will second that.
Have first and a second. Poll vote, please.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Borges?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes. Yeah. And we'll move on to regular items. Approve and adopt resolution allowing for the temporary rehire of retained annuitant to the position of Chief District Attorney Investigator, making an exception to the CalPERS 180-day waiting period as requested by District Attorney and County Administrative Officer.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Any comment by any members of the board? Nope. Seeing none, poll the vote.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Borges?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes. Number 26, review and recommend alternative volunteer camp host and volunteer caretaker program guides, considering policy language under personal resources, and to approve and adopt recommended version of direct staff to implement the programs as requested by the risk manager and county administrative officer.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the not recommended version that has the added language in the board report.
I will second the, I believe the term is the alternate language. I will second that.
Thank you. Yes, alternate language.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this? Seeing none, pull the vote.
Supervisor Starkey?
No.
Supervisor Borges?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes. Take up number 27, discuss and take possible action of potential repairs to public roads that are not part of the county-maintained road system using funds that have been set aside for this purpose, and select which roads should be repaired and directed by the county engineer to fix said roads and requested by the county engineer. You talking on this, John? If you need to.
Speak rapidly. After our last meeting where we got some policy guidance, we went out and looked at the recommended road list. And I'll just run through these alphabetically. Adams Avenue near Napa Street. I saw this as a viable project. It appears that they have, some of the homeowners are actually utilizing like a drag box or something. So an option for that street would to be just to supply gravel to that homeowner or to the road and allow them to go ahead and grade it as they see fit. So that was my recommendation for Adams Avenue. For Darby Street, it's also a viable project. Estimated cost was about $35,000 if our road crew was to go out and to make some modifications, which would include
Filling the lake.
Yeah, fill in the lake, open up the ditches. There's some drainage issues that we could address, and so that's my recommendation there.
John, can I get you just to hold? I'm sorry.
Ran out of tape.
I'm running out of recording space. I gotta start a new one. One moment.
I was just on a roll.
I'm sorry I took so long.
It's just gonna be a moment. It takes a while for the file to save.
The questions that we have, or do you want us to
Sure,
wait until
that's fine.
This is the next one I have. I wanna.
Okay, we're good.
Proceed.
Proceed. All right. Joaquin Street, north of Washington. So we went out and looked at this location, and I didn't see. I saw that there were some issues, but number of homeowners may be served or some of the locations. I just didn't see this as a real viable project. There was Beach Street, which is east of Lake Street. So I didn't know if there was some confusion maybe in what was being recommended. So this was one other street that we looked at where, yeah, there's a huge crater. It's a big problem, but we'd probably have to access private property in order to fix some of the drainages. And that's why I wouldn't suggest that one.
My question is
Yeah.
on that one, since we have about 7,000 of wiggle room, what if you partnered with the private property to access the private property and make a partnership out of it? Because that's a very significant crater there.
Yeah, absolutely. If we were to work with a private property owner to help address the drainage, that's a possibility, but it comes down to that right-of-way, public improvements on private property sometimes becomes an issue. So
Sure, but if they did their share and then we could fix what we could, perhaps that's something to.
That is a possibility.
Okay,
Yep.
that's all I needed.
Yep.
Thank you.
Is that just a single home at the end of that road?
I believe that there's just one home at the end of that road. So, but it's affecting both Lake Street and, it's just a huge crater in the middle of Lake Street and the adjacent street. So
Yeah, you
beach.
got an intersection there.
So, yeah, and you'd have to do quite a bit of work to get all of that to drain, in my opinion. This is without actually doing a survey or anything, just visual survey. So, Napa Street, so north of Washington Boulevard, again, a viable project. I saw this as potential, just again, delivering some rock. It looks like the adjacent homeowners are interested in or they have been doing some grading. So $1,000 worth of rock could go a long way. Rock Creek subdivision, we drove through, looked at a number of those roads. Most of the drainage issues again would require private property owner cooperation. There was one location within the right-of-way where there's a collapsed drain pipe and somebody's Mickey Mouse something. Anyway, it's not working. So we could correct an issue for about $6,000 there. And then on Union Street, west of Michigan, this is just an area that needs major cleanup. I don't even know where to start until we start moving RVs that are burnt, and I mean, there's just debris, it's littered. So that was my recommended list, and I'm ready to receive direction.
I have one question. I want to give direction, but I have one question. So this was originally placed in the budget years ago by Supervisor Berkowitz, who wanted to have this kind of, to be able to go in and clean up some roads in District 5. And then Supervisor Wilson picked it up to make sure that we had the policy. It says in here that this is going to be Measure R money.
That's
That was a typo
Oh.
on my fault. So right as of this time, it's not Measure R money, but Measure R money could be allocated to this. So that was an error on my part in the staff report. So it's a
Okay,
general-
did I read the wrong staff report, or was
No,
I looking
no,
at-
this was an error that went uncorrected, and
Okay.
it should have just said general fund.
Yeah,
All right.
this is the money that we set aside.
Okay,
It
but I
is
just
not
want-
Measure R.
I just want to say for the record that it was my duty to go in and change them all, and I overlooked one.
That's okay.
So
I
that
just
is
want to
on
get
me.
a gold star for reading my agenda. I appreciate that.
I changed it in the
Stop by my
summary
office
and in the
later.
recommendation, and I looked over the little blurb at the top. I just changed the summary.
Nobody's
and
fault. I just wanted to make sure that if, because I was concerned. So
Yep.
thank you. Sorry to point it out.
Any other questions from the board? Any public comment?
When I bought my piece of property a long time ago, most of the road into my place was gravel, and of course, every winter it required some maintenance, which very often didn't occur, but there was fortunately a man that lived on our street that had an old road grader, and he provided his services, and it kept the road fairly tolerable. What I might suggest to the county to extend the amount of money that you have to spend on these kinds of roads, because my road, again, is not probably a county-maintained road, is you partner with the homeowners that are on the road, and which we did. Not everybody is able to contribute, but we had enough people contribute on the road to actually have it paved, and the homeowners actually paid for that. If the county can contribute to some extent, when you have a road that doesn't have sufficient number of homeowners that can contribute, you may want to see if you could gather a kind of a partner-public relationship and maybe get some of these roads paved in the county successfully. And my road's been in, I mean, it didn't get all the way into my house. I didn't expect it to, but because I'm the last one on the street, but it did substantially reduce the wear and tear on the vehicles, and the road has stayed in fairly decent shape now for probably close to 20 years. So this might be something that you would consider in the future.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I think it'd be a much better spending of money, especially if it's county money, to look for long-term problems like he suggested. That's a really, really great idea. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, pull it back to the board. Entertain a motion?
I will make the motion to take action on the potential repairs to the public roads that are not a part of the county-maintained road system using the funds that have been set aside for this purpose, and to highly encourage that Lake Street, or Beach Street, be included.
If you can work it out.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Supervisor Borges?
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Moving down. Approve and authorize use of fiscal year 2023-24 county travel funds out of the Board of Supervisors travel training budget to reimburse the travel training costs of supervisors to attend the swearing-in ceremony of Mike McGuire, California State Senate Pro Tem, as requested by Supervisor Howard.
Well, being Supervisor Howard is AWOL today. I hope he's okay.
I hope he is too.
I know that he asked for this to be put on the agenda because of the swearing-in ceremony that we all, I shouldn't say we all, me and him and Supervisor Starkey attended. It was not previously approved by the board, but I think him and I kind of agreed that had we not been board members, we wouldn't have been invited. And also, we talked a lot about relationships today, and having that relationship with Senator McGuire and being there, showing support of him from the North Coast, I think went a long way. There was a few other counties that had support like Delaware County showed for him, and I think it's going to go a long way. So I think it is the right use of travel money to advocate for the county in that way, and I believe that's why Supervisor Howard was putting it on here, because he believed the same way.
Any other comments?
So I guess I'll just speak out as against it. I feel like if we were going to attend this, we should have discussed it beforehand and possibly just only sent one person down instead of the expense for potentially 3 people. So that's my opinion on it.
Any comment?
Well, I attended, I had no expectation to have any kind of reimbursement whatsoever. So I am fine not having the reimbursement, but our admin manual does state that county employees, included elected or appointed officials, can travel out of the area to incur expenses while on county businesses. Employees should not be required to bear an undue burden or accrue any personal benefit. So it's in the policy manual that can happen. I'm not inclined to I decided that before I even went, that I was going on my own dime. So for me, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I'm just not going to be accepting it. I don't know if that makes sense.
It makes sense. My only comment is, before I make it is that I've done a lot of these where we get invitations to inaugurations, we get into invitations to retirements, et cetera. Those I choose to go to, I've gone to. I don't expect reimbursement for those kinds of more social events, even when I was serving as an elected at the time. So for me, if this was to be approved, it should have been approved ahead of time, and then deciding who would have attended. And so I can't support it at this point in time. This type of expense for travel for board members, for myself. So, do we have a motion?
I will make the motion.
Yeah, sorry. Public
that,
comment. Sorry.
The funds be reimbursed.
Okay.
This is disgusting. It has come to light that certain expenditures labeled as training were in fact not aligned with the principles of genuine skill development. Instead, they were thinly veiled attempts to seek reimbursement for lavish accommodations and extravagant dining experiences. Let me ask you this. How many families in our community can afford to indulge in such luxury? When nearly half our county relies on some form of assistance, it is unconscionable to squander public resources in this matter. Furthermore, as we examine the disparity in compensation between public service and community members, the contrast is stark. The definition of training extends far beyond the acquisition of skills. It encompasses ethical conduct, accountability, and the responsible stewardship of public resources. Have you forgotten the responsibility that was entrusted to you as stewards of the public trust? It appears you have. I urge you to vote no on this reimbursement. For the life of me, Darren Short, of you of all people, and Chris Howard, how you can go off the backs of poor taxpayers for a party is beyond me. That's outrageous. That's disgusting.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, we have a motion. Is there a second? Hearing no second, this dies for lack of motion. And that brings us up to budget transfers. We have number 29, which is approve and adopt transfer 0106 to the amount of $20,000 within the flood control zone 4 subzone C budget unit, Klamath Glen levy. We have a number 30, approval of a budget transfer 0107 to the amount of $100,000 within the road budget unit 102 for the establishment of a bridge preventative maintenance program, and direct staff to issue a request for the proposal to sync qualified engineering firm and develop a program requested by the county engineer. We have 31, approve and adopt budget transfer 0108 for the fiscal year of 23-24 within the sheriff's office budget unit to the amount of $139,247 to allow the expenditure of asset forfeiture money. 32, the approve and adopt budget transfer 0201 for the fiscal year 23-24 within the sheriff's office budget to the amount of $30,270 to allow the payment of upfitting the radio in a truck purchased last fiscal year. 33, approve and adopt budget transfer 0202 to the assess forfeiture sheriff's budget unit fiscal year 23-24 to the amount of $139,247. That basically has something to do with the same transfer over of 31. And 34, approve and adopt budget transfer 0204 within the 2011 public safety realignment budget to the amount of $1,615,882 to align with the approved county community corrections partnership plan as requested by the chief probation officer. And number 35, approve and adopt budget transfer 0203 within the probation department budget to the amount of $250,586 to align with the approved community corrections partnership plan as requested by the chief probation officer.
Move to
Having
approve the
those-
budget transfers.
We have a motion to approve.
I will second.
Do we have any public comment on these issues? Any of the budget issues as mentioned?
We're a pretty small county. Having very, very small amount of attorneys and them being privately contracted oftentimes with the county, situations like civil assets forfeiture usually leave citizens in much like fighting a giant. It's very unfair, really horrible. I've known people personally that are affected by that in our local community, and I would consider it theft. So I would strongly encourage you guys to look into civil asset forfeiture and what it's done to people around the nation and how much money the federal government and local state governments have now taken from the people. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this issue?
From the seat, I agree with them.
And having that, seeing no further public comment, bring it back to the board. We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions by the board members? Having none, hearing none. Then we move to poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Starkey?
Yes.
Supervisor Borges?
Yes.
Supervisor Short?
Yes.
Chair Wilson?
Yes. And we are officially, consider miscellaneous legislature for budget matters pursuant to the county, authorize the chair to sign and approve appropriate letters in respect to the matter of pending before the state or federal governments. When we have none, I don't see. We have none. Therefore, I hereby call this meeting adjourned. Thank you so much for your attendance and your ears.